Inside the second elder of Sky Tower's residence, Kai Yang could be seen wolfing down food, while Su Mu's group sat off to the side talking to him. Naturally, they tried to probe Kai Yang and asked why had Su Yan beaten him like so that night, but Kia Yang didn't dare reply. That's right. Wei Zhuan didn't come and cause any more trouble for you guys, right? Guiding them away from the previous topic, Kai Yang inquired. Speaking of this, ever since he had left the forest prison, he had either been unconscious or unable to inquire due to other reasons, such as being frozen in an ice block, so he really didn't know how the main gate had dealt with the problem. That affair has already been brought to a close. The elders have ordered us juniors to not pursue this matter any further. Su Mu answered before suddenly looking at Kia Yang with great suspicion. Truth be told, the reason why we are safe and will suffer no further punishment is not because of my grandfather. Eh? Kai Yang lifted up his head. It wasn't because of the second elder? It wasn't. Su Mu slowly shook his head. Then a bit awkwardly he retold the events that had occurred in the elder hall that day. Then he followed up with, just as I was being restrained by my grandfather, guess who appeared? Who? This person is someone you would never have thought of. It was the Contribution Hall's treasurer Meng. He brought the head's jade pendant and issued his direct command. Only after this did this affair die down and turn into something small that could be resolved. Old man Meng? Kai Yang asked incredulously. If not for him, then Senior Kai, I'm afraid that you would have already been severely punished by the Grand Elder. When Su Mu spoke of this, his face became filled with extreme guilt. Meanwhile Kai Yang smiled, unaffected. Junior Su, you don't need to take this so seriously. Su Mu clasped both his hands in front of him saying, I know that Senior is a generous and benevolent person, and I apologize to you in place of my grandfather. The old ghost truly didn't settle things well this time. Kai Yang really didn't mind such a thing because in the higher-level battles, they would naturally use the disciples under them as chess pieces. This was only human nature. Su Mu spoke again. Treasurer Meng's background is quite a mystery. The old ghost said that his cultivation is quite high and profound. It is quite a puzzle as to why he interfered in this matter. Also, it appears his friendship with the head runs deep. This caused Kai Yang to contemplate a bit. Old man Meng is someone who grabs feathers from a flying goose and wouldn't act if there wasn't any profit in sight. This type of brain-racking idea is most likely for a reason regarding the bigger picture. But no matter what it is, he did help us, so we should pay a trip to him to thank him at least and take this opportunity to see what he actually wants to do. Senior speaks the truth. We were waiting for Senior so we could go together. Su Mu replied, Let's go now. Some things should not be delayed. So this group walked majestically off towards the Contribution Hall, like they were charging off to battle. In the Contribution Hall, Treasurer Meng was actually not sleeping, but sitting straight behind the counter smiling. As he smiled, he looked at Kai Yang and others who had just walked in. It was like he was expecting them. Su Mu followed Kai Yang in with a smile, hiding his true thoughts. Good day to Grandpa Meng. This is how they address Treasurer Meng now. It used to be, damn old man. But now, how would Su Mu dare to call him that? Treasurer Meng lightly chuckled. This child is quite polite. Hey, Su Mu said with a bit of embarrassment. You have come to say your thanks? And they all nodded their heads. Then that's fine, only little Kai Yang needs to stay. The rest of you can all scram. Yes. Su Mu and the rest replied without hesitation, and before the places they stood in could heat up, they had all quickly retreated from the Contribution Hall. By then, they had all realized the reason why Treasurer Meng had aided them was because of Kai Yang. Otherwise, why would he have only asked Kai Yang to stay behind? It was just, why did he help Senior Kai? Inside the Contribution Hall, Kai Yang was also a bit suspicious. Treasurer Meng, what are you scheming? He didn't talk in circles and directly voiced the suspicions in his heart. Meng Wuya only he laughed, and then walked out from behind the counter. Clasping both hands, he started to walk in circles around Kai Yang, and only after a few revolutions did he lift up his head and ask, What do you think I am scheming? I don't know. Kai Yang rolled his eyes while thinking if he knew the answer, would he need to ask. Meng Wuya replied, Since you are this honest and do not talk in circles, You should be someone who knows how to pay his debts. So, since I helped you this time, I want you to help me with one little favor. Kai Yang knitted his eyebrows together. A favor I can help you with? Treasurer Meng's cultivation was high and profound. So if he couldn't do it, how could Kai Yang possibly do it? Like he could see through Kai Yang's worries. Treasurer Meng smiled. Don't worry, because there isn't much danger at all. If you do as I say, not only will there be no danger, you will actually gain many rewards. Kai Yang was able to see that when Treasurer Meng said those last words, his face showed a bit of sadness. Helping you complete this favor. There are also conditions? Kai Yang was a bit puzzled. When he was asking for a favor, he still put so many conditions up. Treasurer Meng said, not only do you have to comply with my conditions, you also have to make the opposite party completely satisfied. So troublesome, I won't do it. Spinning on his heels, Kai Yang started to leave. Don't! Treasurer Meng cried out in worry. He had finally found someone who fit his requirements. How could he let him leave like that? Little Kai Yang, you can't be like this. If you let water drip, then it will repay you by giving you a spring pond. No matter what, this senior is your benefactor. So how could you just disappoint me like this? Then don't walk around in circles. Speak out the truth, and if I can help you, I will help you. If I cannot, I will find someone else to help you. Stretch out your hand. I want to test out your world chi. Treasurer Meng didn't dare to drag it out any further and directly stated what he needed. Kai Yang looked at him suspiciously as he stretched out his hand. He was convinced that Treasurer Meng was going to do something harmful to him. Meng Wuya used 2 fingers and placed them on Kai Yang's wrist. Then with a solemn face he started probe about. His face was a flurry of expressions. The first one was indifference, the next one was stern, while the one after that was amazement, and finally he looked flabbergasted. Good, good, good. Such strong and pure yang world chi. Retracting his hand, Meng Wuya was overjoyed at this unexpected discovery. This favor is related to me training my world chi? Kai Yang guessed. Naturally they are related. Meng Wuya vigorously nodded his head. Otherwise, why would I come and ask you? Little Kai Yang, I will ask you another question and you must answer honestly. What question? Meng Wuya suddenly became really embarrassed as his eyes flitted to and fro. After thinking for quite some time about his word choice, he asked in a nervous but anticipating tone, You are still a boy, right? Because he was too nervous. Meng Wuya's neck was stretched out quite far as he pushed his face in front of Kai Yang's. Both his eyes fixed on him. Kai Yang immediately retreated 2 steps, then 3 more. Following that, goosebumps rose all over his body and his body shivered as he asked with extreme vigilance, What are you doing? This old thing, could it be that he had some special disposition? This question was far too nonsensical. Why have you retreated so far? It isn't like this senior is going to eat you. Meng Wuya chased Kai Yang. Once he backed him into a corner, he asked in a mysteriously low voice, Are really still a boy or not? What do you really want to do? Kai Yang adopted a, if you dare do anything I will take you down with me type of pose. What do you think this senior is? When Meng Wuya saw Kai Yang's position, he finally realized what Kai Yang was thinking or thought he had meant when he had asked him. Not only did his face turn red, he also retreated a few steps. It isn't like this at all. This kid. You are so dirty-minded. Who's the dirty-minded one? Staring at the asses and legs of girls all day long. Kai Yang showed no quarter as he refuted. Don't speak about this matter again. Meng Wuya was so frightened that he looked in all directions, scared about who might have overheard this, cupping his hands and begging, Lord Kai Yang, could you not speak about this matter anymore? This senior only wanted to see how well they developed. It's not like I wanted to do anything to them. Seeing that he had surrendered, Kai Yang didn't press him further and sternly replied, The favor that you want me to help you with, is it related to these cases in any way? That's right. When they started to speak about the true matter at hand, Meng Wuya's face turned solemn again. So little Kai Yang, you must truthfully answer me. Are you still a boy? Cough cough. N? It is of great importance to the matter. Kai Yang became very embarrassed as he took in a few breaths through his nose. I'm not good. The weight within Meng Wuya's heart had finally been lifted. This is too good. Little Kai Yang, you are good. In this age, many boys at 14-15 years old had already had intimate dealings with females. This is not to say anything bad about the children of poor families, since they married at a young age to help them in the long run. As for the children of rich families, you don't even need to ask. Every one of those second-generation young masters had several maids that they shared a room with, that left only martial practitioners. Since their hearts were always focused on cultivating, they often lost their virginity quite late, while some practitioners did not even have any intimate relationships with the opposite sex. Even the male disciples in Sky Tower, many of the 15-16-year-olds often busied themselves with carnal pleasures. Nonetheless, Meng Wuya believed that Kai Yang wasn't like those people, but he had to be careful, so he had to ask. In other words, I am able to help you? Kai Yang looked at Meng Wuya. If you can't, then no one else under the sky can. You have passed this round. Since Meng Wuya's mood was fantastic, he laughed out loudly. Didn't you just say that you wanted the other person to be completely satisfied? Kai Yang asked suspiciously. Meng Wuya's laughter suddenly halted. Retracting it, he stiffly nodded his head and replied, You do have to make her satisfied. If she isn't satisfied, then the job cannot be completed. Not to hide anything from you, but a few months earlier I had found someone who fit the criteria, but she wasn't willingly, so I could only drop the matter. Forget about it, I will take you to her. If you can do it, but if you can't, then you can't. After talking for all this time, Meng Wuya still didn't know how to continue explaining. Only after letting out a small sigh, he grabbed Kai Yang by the collar and led him outside. Hastily, Kai Yang said, First finish what you need to say. I am helping you because I want to thank you for your benevolence. But if what that person is asking is too excessive, I will not agree. Stinking brat. Meng Wuya was highly depressed. When he heard Kai Yang making all types of excuses, he burst into a fit of anger while thinking if you knew what I really wanted you to do, then you wouldn't be able to wait and would instantly jump and attempt to complete it. He actually dared to act cold front in front of him. As he followed Meng Wuya, Kai Yang realized that they were walking towards Coiling Dragonstream. Furthermore, he discovered that it was near the place that he often cultivated. Why are they walking over there? When he was training over there, he hadn't seen any traces of housing near there at all. After all, Coiling Dragonstream is a dangerous place, so ordinarily no one would go there. When they were about 100 feet away from his training place, Meng Wuya suddenly stopped and pointed his finger in front of him. Look, it's over there. Looking over, Kai Yang couldn't help but stare blankly over. Standing where he usually trained was a female. She stood in front of the three-sun fruit tree, wearing a light green dress. You couldn't see what she was thinking about. It seemed that she was deep in thought. Her body didn't move at all. She stood there unmoving, while her dress billowed in the wind. She wore a veil, not allowing anyone to see her appearance. On her forehead hung a sparkling blue gemstone, highlighting her elegant and refined nature. Her figure looked weak and fragile, like it couldn't even endure a gust of wind, but it was a graceful figure. Within her pair of crystal-clear eyes was naivety, like she was a child that had yet to grow up. Looking at her, Kai Yang thought about that night, the sleeping beauty on his worn-out bed. It's her. Kai Yang's gaze suddenly softened. You recognize her? Meng Wuya immediately became alert, because his beloved disciple had told him from her own mouth that she hadn't even talked to Kai Yang before. But why, when Kai Yang arrived, had they actually recognized each other? You wanted me to help her? Kai Yang asked, looking at Meng Wuya. Yes. Meng Wuya nodded his head. I'll help. Outside of Treasurer Meng's expectations, Kai Yang agreed to his request without the slightest hesitation. It seemed as though his persuasive words and appeals to him through reason, emotion, violence, and bribery were not completely useless after all. Within Meng Wuya's heart, for no reason, a wonderful feeling burst out, and he suddenly regretted asking Kai Yang for help. Why did you agree so readily? Old man Meng vigilantly asked. Didn't you ask for my assistance? His brows creased, Kaiyang looked at Meng Wuya. This old man changed attitudes far too quickly. I did want you to help me, but you agreed far too quickly for my liking. Meng Wuya kept on shaking his head. You must give me an explanation. Then do you want my help or not? Kaiyang impatiently asked. Of course I do. Then what are you asking for? Me agreeing, isn't it a good thing? That's right, him agreeing that readily. Isn't it a good thing? Why did he feel that something wasn't right? Meng Wuya looked distracted. Step by step, Kaiyang walked forward. The sound of his footsteps startled Xianxia, who was currently deep in thought, and by the time she regained conscious, Kaiyang had already arrived at her side. Xianxia was clearly at a loss, and looked at Kaiyang not knowing what to do. She couldn't help but be frightened because the previous 2 times they met were both at night and embarrassing things had occurred. How could Xianxia stay calm? Senior Xia. Kaiyang looked at her. Why are you here? I came here to check up on the fruits for you. Since you haven't come these past few days, I was afraid that others might have taken them. She promptly replied. Looking over, Kaiyang saw that all of his 3 sun fruits had disappeared. The only ones remaining were the ones on the last tree that were about to ripen. These are your fruits. I have refined them into immortality pills. As Xianxia spoke, she took out a small bottle and handed it to Kaiyang. Taking it, Kaiyang discovered 9 pills were rolling about inside, and they dispersed a rich yang energy. It was extremely pure. They didn't have any impurities in them at all. It was just, how did she refine them into pills? Senior knows that I train over here? Kaiyang asked and raised his eyebrows. If this was not the case, how could she have come here to guard his 3 sons' fruit? Xianxia evaded his gaze. I accidentally stumbled upon it. The person that night really was you. Kaiyang lightly smiled, a warm feeling spreading from his heart throughout his body. The night that Kaiyang broke through into the initial element stage, there was a female wearing a veil that attacked him during his breakthrough. Originally, he thought that she was going to kill him. It wasn't until that final moment he found out that this really wasn't the case. She had just wanted to assist him with breaking through. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to block any of the strikes from that veiled female. At that time, Kaiyang already had his suspicions about the identity of the lady, and now he had finally been able to confirm the identity of that veiled female. Once he did so, his heart filled with appreciation for his senior Xia. Unfortunately, old man Meng jumped into between Kaiyang and Xianxia, interrupting their sweet moment. And, like a mother hen protecting her little chicks, he protected his treasured disciple. Suspiciously, Kaiyang looked towards him, asking, You know each other? Snorting, Meng Wuya showed a face full of pride and righteousness. This is my disciple. Your disciple? Kaiyang's jaw nearly fell to ground as his eyes continuously flitted between Xianxia and Meng Wuya in complete disbelief. He never would have thought, he truly never would have thought it, that such an irresponsible man like Treasurer Meng would actually accept a disciple. This couldn't be an accidental or false disciple, could it? You two know each other? Glancing to the side, Meng Wuya asked Kaiyang. We don't know each other. Xianxia's response was extremely clear and firm, leaving no room for argument. As she replied, she also moved to hide behind Meng Wuya, positioning her hands in a defensive manner. Kaiyang took the hint and chuckled. It can't be counted as knowing each other. It's just that on that night, senior sister helped me with a small matter. Meng Wuya nodded his head. Xianxia had already informed him regarding this matter, and if it wasn't for that night's matter, then she wouldn't have found out that Kaiyang had such pure yang-type world chi. Treasurer Meng, what type of task does senior sister need my help for? Could you please tell me? He asked with an inquisitive look. Since it was related to Xianxia, he wouldn't reject the request no matter the task. Instead of replying, Meng Wuya turned to his beloved disciple and inquired, Is he okay? Xianxia's delicate earlobes suddenly reddened. Lowering her eyes, one could see her long eyelashes were trembling. Only after a good while did she tentatively nod her head. Seeing her act like this, Meng Wuya couldn't help but let out a small sigh of exasperation. Stop, stop, stop. Since time is limited, It will be him. Standing to side, Kai Yang observed the proceedings without saying a word. A few minutes later, Meng Wuya suddenly started to speak in a serious tone. Kai Yang, you should know that on this earth, there are certain types of people that are different from ordinary people. These people possess skills and abilities that normal people can't possibly fathom. Kai Yang could only stare blankly before softly responding, Treasurer Meng, you are talking about those people who have a special physique? That's right. He answered while nodding his head. These people are protected by the heavens, and are the children of the heavens. Some are gifted in cultivating, others can heal quicker than others, while other physiques are more suited to battling. There are various types of physiques coming in all shapes and forms, but no matter who it is, as long as they possess a special physique, they are subjected to the envy of others. It's just, those who possess special physiques are extremely rare. You might not even find one in 1,000,000 people. Little Kai Yang, you are very lucky because today you are blessed enough to see someone with a special physique. In shock, Kai Yang glanced at Xianxia, who was currently hiding behind Meng Wuya. Don't tell me it's senior sister. He, with a face full of arrogance. Meng Wuya grinned from his heart. Nodding his head, he replied, That's right. Ning Chong is different from ordinary people. Kai Yang's heart was going up and down. Never in 1,000 instances would he have thought this little and easily shy senior sister was actually someone who possessed a special physique. What is special about senior sister? Kai Yang couldn't help but curiously ask. Meng Wuya didn't reply but instead sank into contemplation while muttering to himself, finally saying, These fruits on the tree have just matured, so my dear disciple, turn them into pills. Xianxia walked up to the Three Suns fruit tree and lightly plucked the ripe fruits from its branches. Kai Yang didn't ask anything. He felt that all his questions would soon be answered. My disciple, let him see some of your might. Meng Wuya chuckled. Xianxia nodded her head, then walked up to Kai Yang. Taking one of her white jade hands, she placed the fruits on the palm of her hand. Please watch junior brother. Xianxia quietly instructed him, before activating her world chi. Kai Yang was extremely shocked. This was because as she activated her world chi, he saw that from within the fruits outsurged a glowing red energy. The yang energy within the fruits burst out. Since Kai Yang cultivated the true yang tactics, he was extremely sensitive to yang energy. Currently, he could clearly feel the energy within the Three Suns fruits, violently bursting outwards. But how did this happen? The energy that came from within the fruits converged in front of Xianxia. Once all the energy had been extracted from the fruits, Kai Yang watched as they deflated without an ounce of yang qi to be sensed within them before disintegrating into the wind. This process all happened in the span of 10 breaths. Xianxia moved again. One hand held the extracted energy, while the other hand performed some unknown movements in the air. Then the yang qi from within coiling dragon stream rushed towards her in one solid stream. With a motion of her hand, Xianxia grabbed that qi and added to the already condensed red-colored energy from the fruits. As time went on, her grabbing speed became faster and faster as each handful of yang qi assimilated with the red energy from the fruits in her palm. Though as more energy was poured in, not only did the accumulated energy not expand, it actually decreased in size. But the energy within the energy ball was becoming stronger and stronger. A few minutes later, Xianxia finally stopped seizing yang qi from coiling dragon stream. She then used her 2 hands to squeeze the energy ball. Her 2 hands quickly clasped together, and when she reopened her hands again, there were 3 bright red pills within her palm. The pills were smooth and round with a alluring luster, not to mention the pill marks were all clearly visible. Watching this had long since caused Kai Yang to stare blankly ahead with no reaction. The scene that had played out, apart from using peak-level skills, there was no possible way to explain it. It was only at that moment did Kai Yang realize how his senior sister had obtained that bottle of pills. They were refined by her in such a manner. But wasn't that too easy and simple? Receipt Air Masters were originally rare, and along with the successful refinement of pills, there would always be many failures. Not to mention when Receipt Air Masters refined pills, They required the usage of special tools, examples of which would be furnaces, fire, etc. But senior sister Xia had only used her hands, and apart from the three suns fruit, she didn't use any other materials. Yet she so easily crafted those three pills. For you, putting her hand in front of Kai Yang, she offered the pills to him. Taking in a deep breath, Kai Yang calmed his flustered heart before taking the pills from her. Then he carefully inspected each pill and discovered that each and every one of them held yang qi that was far richer and denser than the original fruit. After all, when Xianxia was refining the pills, she had also added yang qi from coiling dragon stream. Senior sister, if you were to start refining pills, then the current sellers would have no customers left. Kai Yang said as he forced out a bitter smile. Never had he seen someone simplify pill refinement to such a degree. I'm afraid even those renowned pill masters wouldn't even come close to possessing an ability like Xianxia's. What special body do you have, senior sister? Kai Yang asked. Meng Wuya replied, Holy Spirit pill body. Used for pill making? Not bad. Meng Wuya nodded his head. These physiques are extremely unique. For those people who possess a Holy Spirit pill body, they can make pills without any sort of side effects or backlashes. You should know that all medicines contain 1/3 poison, and although they can increase a practitioner's strength, the benefit they can provide is limited. But for pills made utilizing the Holy Spirit pill body, the body is able to refine the poison away. Up until now, your senior sister has only cultivated for 5 years. Today she is at the separation and reunion boundary, and if I hadn't deliberately suppressed her ability, then I'm certain that she would have reached the true element boundary already. Kai Yang was astonished. In a period of 5 years, she had already cultivated to the separation and reunion boundary. Xianxia was also only at this stage, but how many years had it taken him? It should have been around 10 years. Not to mention senior sister had done this under suppression, so if she wasn't suppressed, then wouldn't she be more powerful than Su Yan? Kai Yang was embarrassed to death, for his aptitude paled in comparison to the person in front of him. I was simply something on the ground, gazing up at something in the sky. This person was the #1 genius in the entire sky tower. But for Xianxia to have such rapid growth, you couldn't forget the large amount of assistance she had received from cultivation pills. Meng Wuya continued to speak. Not only are there advantages to the Holy Spirit pill body, if you cultivate it with a suitable skill, then, as long as they had energy, one would be able to refine anything under the sky. Take the qi in the air, for example. As long as my disciple is willing, she would also be able to refine it into pills. As long as it had energy, anything under the sky was refinable into pills. Since the energy in the earth and heavens were refinable, then you didn't need to talk about the 3 suns fruit. Kai Yang could see that, in the future, this senior Xia will be the best alchemist master in the entire world. Born with this type of body, nobody would be able to match her prowess. This time, in order for her to break through into the next boundary, she needs to refine and form something within her body. As for this thing, she is unable to do it herself. So that's why you need my help? Kai Yang asked. Meng Wuya nodded his head. What type of thing? 9 Indu crystals. These things are extremely helpful to those in the true element boundary. So if she were able to refine and form this thing, then it would help to prevent anything from hindering her cultivation. To go from the separation and reunion boundary into the true element boundary, one must change their world qi into true qi, which is far more pure and powerful. This was also a process that all practitioners needed to undertake, and if this process was accompanied by some precious treasure, then the transformed true qi would more powerful than normal. This 9 Indu crystals were clearly such a precious treasure and were definitely one of the best treasures. The 9 Indu crystals are naturally a spirit essence, and obtaining them is extremely hard. And if it were used by people who were not suitable, then it would immediately melt and disappear. Only those who cultivated yang qi would be able to control them. Not to mention that the purity of their yang world qi must reach a certain degree. That is also the reason why we need your help. What the exact things do I need to do? Kai Yang questioned. Suddenly Meng Wuya became really impatient. Why are you asking so much? You will know when the time comes. Kai Yang pinched the bridge of his nose. and wondered why old man Meng would be this angry. Where is this thing? When are we leaving to retrieve it? It's in Black Wind Mountain. Over there, some 9 Eans have gathered. And only on the 7th of July will the 9 Een Chi truly gather, and only then would you be able to retrieve its Een Chi. Then there isn't much time left. Kai Yang pondered as he calculated. There was only 10 days until 7th of July. If you needed to enter Black Wind Mountains, then journeying in would also take some time. So if you don't have anything to do, then I would like to hurry over now. Otherwise, we would have to wait another year for it. Meng Wuya spoke solemnly. I can depart any time. Kai Yang smiled. Then come to the contribution hall to find me in 2 days, because I still need to prepare some things. Meng Wuya warmly replied. Okay. Then we'll meet in 2 days' time. With the date set, both parties met 2 days later in the contribution hall and departed. Looking at his receding back, Meng Wuya let out a small sigh, his expression oddly queer. You couldn't tell what he was thinking, and only after a good while did he speak. My disciple, are you certain that you want to do this? Xianing Chang's clothes fluttered as she nodded her head. Meng Wuya continued. If you truly aren't able to refine the 9 Een dew crystals, you are still able to break through, it's just that your future power would be slightly weaker. Xianing Chang lightly laughed. But, if I want to help Master, then wouldn't it be better with purer true Qi? Master, you saved me and raised me. Disciple also wants to help you. But, AI, why don't you think over it again? The reason for the 2 days of delay was because Meng Wuya wanted Xianing Chang to think it over again. Blushing, Xianing Chang replied, It's nothing. I really don't hate him. Meng Wuya sighed out knowingly. We took advantage of the kid. Thinking about Kai Yang's indifferent manner, Meng Wuya became so hateful that his tooth started to itch. You only know that you are here to help with a favor, but you don't know how much you will be taken advantage of. By all means, sparks must not be created or fly. In the end, this little place isn't something where his disciple will settle. Meng Wuya worried anxiously, he intestines tied in a knot. Kai Yang didn't return to Su Yan's wooden house, but instead returned to his secluded wooden hut, which he hadn't visited in many days. Although it had been quite some while since he had last been here, it was still as clean and tidy as before. Not even a speck of dust could be seen. He wondered who it could have been that had been tidying his hut. Although Treasurer Meng had been very vague, Kai Yang still knew the brief details on where he was going and what he needed to do. Since it was the place that the 9 Een gathered, then the Een Chi would be extremely dense. And his Yang Chi is the perfect bane of the Een Chi, so there wasn't much to worry about. It was just that his current cultivation was far too low, so he needed to stockpile some Yang liquid so he wouldn't suffer too much in a drawn-out battle. It was just by chance that his senior Xia had refined all of his 3 sons' fruits into pills, which was a good replenishment for his Yang liquid drops. For 3 sons' fruit trees, each tree grew 3 fruits, totaling 12 bright red pills. And each pill allowed him to form 3 drops of Yang liquid. So he had condensed a total of 36 Yang drops. These drops, whether or not they were used in battle or used to defend against the Een Chi, they would be extremely helpful. These were the things he would rely on to survive. By taking an entire day, Kai Yang finally managed to refine all 12 pills and condense out the Yang liquid drops. When he had condensed them, not only had he condensed 36 drops, but an extra 4 drops as well for a total of 40 drops. If you added the drops he already possessed within his Jiantian, then he had quite a haul. This time round, he finally had some advantage. When he had condensed and refined all the Yang liquid drops and pills, Kai Yang found out he had broken through into the initial element 4th stage. This breakthrough was truly too sudden, without any forewarning. But the breakthrough had been extremely fluid, like water, without him feeling anything in particular. Thinking it over, Kai Yang came to the conclusion that it was probably due to the large amounts of cultivation pills he had eaten these past few days, followed by 12 Yang pills. The convergence of this large amount of energy, enabling him to break through, isn't something inconceivable. Early in the morning of the 2nd day, standing before the contribution hall gate, Kai Yang knocked gently on the door. After some time, the front door opened, and Xianing Chong came out from within. From her shoulder hung an arm-length package, containing many things. "Junior brother, you came." Xianing Chong greeted him in a soft voice. "N." Kai Yang nodded. "Where is Treasurer Meng?" "Yesterday he had a sudden resurgence of an old illness. He has left to heal, so he cannot come with us," Xianing Chong explained, her pair of eyes blinking incessantly. The 2 rows of eyelashes trembled like miniature fans. Kai Yang looked at her suspiciously, and Xianing Chang's eyes flashed with a trace of panic. "Do we need to wait for him?" Although Kai Yang had guessed what had happened already, he didn't expose anything. "No need. I know the location of that place and time is running out. Master said that we do not need to wait for him." Seeing Kai Yang didn't inquire further, Xianing Chong relaxed her heart. "Okay then." Kai Yang hesitated slightly before complying. "This time I will trouble junior brother," Xianing Chong said in one breath. "Elder sister is too polite." Kai Yang exhibited a faint smile. Swiftly, the 2 people left the contribution hall. In the contribution hall's inner chamber, Treasurer Meng was currently asleep. On the table lay plates of various exquisite dishes, as well as few pots of wine. It looked like Treasurer Meng had fallen asleep after drinking some good wine. The dishes on the table were made by Xianing Chong, but each had a special seasoning. This seasoning was refined using her Holy Spirit pill body. This grade of medicine couldn't even be resisted by someone at Meng Wuya's level. As for the duration of his sleep, it should last for a few days. Meng Wuya, throughout his entire life, had always been shrewd and would have never expected that someday he would fall at the hands of his own beloved disciple. It was estimated that by the time Meng Wuya woke up, everything would already have occurred. Kai Yang and Xianing Chong arrived at the Black Plum Village, where they bought 2 horses and some daily necessities they would require for the long journey ahead. While shopping, Kai Yang also inquired about the location of their destination. According to Xianing Chong, their destination was about 9–10 days away from Black Plum Village. They would have to cross into Black Wind Mountain. Although the journey would be long, they had plenty of time. Shortly after the 2 left the village, news of them was passed to Xie Hongchen's ears. Since the day he saw Su Yan and Kai Yang being intimate in the forest prison, Xie Hongchen had drunk large quantities of wine for several days in frustration. He had finally returned to his normal life yesterday. After thinking it over clearly, he thought that it should not have been exactly as he saw it. Su Yan's temperament was one which Xie Hongchen was very clear of. With her arrogance and strength, how could she be intimate with trash like Kai Yang? Furthermore, they absolutely don't have anything in common and probably hadn't met prior to the incident at the forest prison. So they were basically strangers. After thinking it over, Xie Hongchen came to the conclusion that Su Yan and Kai Yang were acting that day. At the time, due to envy and hate making his blood boil and cloud his mind, he had been unable to think clearly. But after thinking it over, Xie Hongchen's spirit was greatly restored. Yesterday, when saw Su Yan display the same beauty and elegance as always, he was no longer crazy and didn't lose his self-control like he had that day. Although that had been explosive news from Su Yan, after this revelation, the knot in Xie Hongchen's heart disappeared. So long as Su Yan had not been obtained by other men, then sooner or later she would be his. Xie Hongchen was very self-confident about it. After all, he was Sky Tower's most outstanding male disciple, and Su Yan was the most outstanding female disciple. The union of the 2 of them was naturally one all the elders were willing to see. Early in the morning, Xie Hongchen carefully prepared, as he wanted to go and see Su Yan later in Black Wind Trade. But when he was just about to go out, a disciplinary disciple suddenly ran up to him in a hurry. With a flushed face, he said, "Brother Xie, I just saw Kai Yang leave the Sky Tower a moment ago." Xie Hongchen listened to this and smartly asked, "Did he leave alone?" "No. He departed with a dark hall disciple called Xianing Chong." The disciplinary disciple replied, "Xianing Chong." Xie Hongchen narrowed his eyes. "I know her. Her strength is equal to mine, but she is not a core disciple. This woman is quite strange. Where did they go?" Xie Hongchen, at that moment, had a crazy look in his eyes. God have mercy, that waste actually left the tower at such time. It was as if he was asking to be killed off. This was just the solution to solve the hate in my heart. I don't know their destination, but evidently it must be far, because they purchased 2 horses in Black Plum Village. That far? Xiahongchen raised his brows. Okay. Good. Good. Xiahongchen suddenly turned, and with a twisted face said, Look for several disciples whose strength is at least at the separation and reunion boundary to accompany me on a trip. Brother, what do you want to do? What I want to do? I am not clear enough? Do you want to ask again? Xiahongchen's facial features distorted. He wanted to chase down the rival to get rid of Kai Yang, all the while keeping Xia Ningchong in the dark. After all, if news of this was leaked, the consequences would not be a joke. Brother, this is improper. That disciplinary disciple's face turned pale, because Kai Yang was only an initial element stage trial disciple, so even if he did die outside the school, nobody would care. But that dark hall disciple, Xia Ningchong, was different. Her background was unclear, but since she had reached the separation and reunion boundary in strength, she definitely was not an insignificant person. If she died and Sky Tower started to investigate, then the brothers who participated would be chased and have no other choice but to leave Sky Tower. I told you to go find some people. So what are you still standing here for? Xiahongchen said impatiently. Do you want me to go and personally find them? Because of jealousy, Xiahongchen had become possessed. He couldn't maintain his original calm state of mind. He only held ideas about killing Kai Yang now. Brother, after the previous matter, the Grand Elder strictly ordered that nobody is allowed to fight Kai Yang. Did you forget Elder's warning? Hearing this reminder caused Xiahongchen to regain control of himself. That's right, last time, the Grand Elder had suddenly announced that nobody was allowed to make trouble for Kai Yang for a short period of time. This instruction had made everybody bewildered. However, Xiahongchen didn't care about it. How could he let such an excellent opportunity pass in vain? It was such a good opportunity. Did he really have to watch it pass by? If he didn't kill Kai Yang this time, then he must wait till God knows when. What would he do later if he chose to stay within Sky Tower and refused to leave? He was not willing to let go of this chance. The disciplinary disciple thought of something and said with a sly smile, Brother Xia, we cannot get involved, but others may like to get involved. I think that plenty of people would be willing to take this opportunity if they knew of it. What do you mean? Xiahongchen narrowed his eyes and asked. It is said that the blood group's vice-head Long Zai-Tian has been inquiring about news regarding Kai Yang this past month. Long Zai-Tian, Xiahongchen naturally knew him as he was a popular person in the blood group and his strength was also at the Immortal Ascension boundary. But his grandson wasn't quite as outstanding. This year he was probably only at the Qi refining boundary. Xiahongchen was confused. Why would Long Zai-Tian be inquiring about Kai Yang? That person couldn't help but sigh exasperatedly. Long Zai-Tian has been pursuing Hu Mei-er, that seductive girl, for his grandson and has been regarding her as his own already. But relationship between Kai Yang and Hu Mei-er is unclear. So Long Zai-Tian said that Kai Yang must die, teaching him the consequences of having any ideas about touching someone else's woman. Hu Mei-er. In Xiahongchen's mind, a large-breasted female appeared, with a curling upward buttock and a charming young girl's figure. His breath suddenly became very heavy. That seductive girl excels in stimulating people and almost every disciple from the 3 schools had heard about her. Xiahongchen had also seen her once. That waist truly isn't somebody good. He unexpectedly has a relationship with that seductive girl. Although righteous words were coming from Xiahongchen's mouth, in his heart he was actually cursing angrily. After thinking for some time, he doubtfully stated, Something's not right. Such detailed news. Where did you obtain it from? Even if Long Zai-Tian wanted to take Kai Yang's life, he wouldn't announce it far and wide. If it was widely known, would it not alert his enemy? If Kai Yang knew about this, would he still have the courage to leave Sky Tower? The disciplinary disciple's complexion changed slightly, as he knew the details but didn't know how to answer the question. Tell me, Xiahongchen commanded him sternly. Yes, the disciplinary disciple desperately spluttered out. A few days ago when I was in the Spring Wind Rain House in Black Plum Village, drinking, Long Zai-Tian happened to be in the next room. So I listened in to his discussion with the female in next room. Spring Wind Rain House. Xiahongchun looked at that fellow ill-humoredly with one eye. He couldn't have been there just for drinking. That person hurriedly continued. Brother Xie, if Long Zaijian was to know about this news, he will not let Kai Yang off easily, and we won't need to get our hands dirty. Long Zaijian is lusty by nature. If we tell him this, he will know that Kai Yang has a beautiful woman by his side. How do you think he will react? Xie Hongchen's face lit up, and he coldly smiled before praising the disciple. Ingenious plan! This move of murdering with a borrowed knife was a good plan. Hesitating slightly, he then said, since Long Zaijian wants to look for him, pass the news to him, but this matter should be kept secret. Do not reveal anything that exposes you. For Long Zaijian absolutely mustn't know that this news was passed by us. Also tell him that the female with Kai Yang has cultivation at the separation and reunion boundary, so he doesn't try to capture the chicken but lose the rice he lured it with. Yes, that person said before quickly going away. Kai Yang, this time let's see how you escape death. It's just a pity. Xianing Chong wears a veil all day, and although he has never seen her appearance, Xiahongchun was almost certain that she was an outstandingly beautiful female. If such a female fell into Long Zaijian hands, her fate was more than certain. At that moment, Xiahongchun somewhat envied the luck of Long Zaijian. The Sky Tower Pavilion, the disciplinary hall they all began to make trouble. Someone in Black Plum Village was also making trouble. After Kai Yang and Xianing Chong departed on horseback, a group of people came out from hiding. The leader's face was cold, and after staring at Kai Yang's back, he asked, did you see clearly? Was that person Kai Yang? Absolutely. I saw clearly Brother Nu Lang, he was Kai Yang without a doubt. Previously we were beaten up by him. After this Cheng Xiaofeng went to look for Brother Nu Tao. He said he would find an opportunity to teach him lesson. So they went to Black Wind Trade one day and never came back. Nu Lang's complexion became hazy. He waved his hand saying, buy some horses, we must follow them. I must know the whereabouts of my younger brother, and whether he is alive or dead. Nu Tao and Cheng Xiaofeng had been missing for more than 1 month now. Nu Lang had looked everywhere for them but had been unable to find them, and during his inquiries the name Kai Yang arose multiple times. He didn't know the real situation, but he must pursue Kai Yang to ask about it. If his younger brother died by his hand, as an elder brother he must take revenge for the younger brother. Nu Lang's group of people, with him as the leader, prepared to set out. Since he had recently broken through into the Qi transforming stage, his world Qi had yet to stabilize. For martial practitioners at this level, they were the most easily agitated by this type of flurry of emotions tumbling through them. Nu Lang was no exception. The remaining 7 to 8 people were only at the tempered body stage, with a few at the initial element stage, but overall they weren't too high-leveled in their cultivation. It was just their numbers that were great. As for Kai Yang's cultivation, Nu Lang naturally knew of course, so he didn't really put it in his eyes. It was only the female next to Kai Yang that didn't seem to be easily provoked. But after thinking over it carefully, this female didn't seem too strong. Looking at her, her age didn't seem to be very old, and she didn't seem to be any of the famous Sky Tower disciples he had heard of or knew about. Also, if her strength was truly high, why would she need to buy horses to travel? Once you reached a certain cultivation stage, just by relying on your feet, you would be many times faster than a horse. Analyzing it so, Nu Lang's worries dissipated. Unbeknownst to him, the reason why Xia Ningchang purchased the horses was due to her concern for Kai Yang. After all, Kai Yang was only at the initial element 4th stage, so how fast could his feet possibly be? This group of disciples from Stormhouse started to follow their hoof prints, whilst hiding in the bushes and shadows. As Kai Yang and Xianing Chong were urging their horses, they didn't know that 2 groups had followed and trapped them in a pincer formation. Not only that, both groups harbored malicious intent. Even though Xia Ningchang's cultivation wasn't bad, she still had yet to reach the stage where she could use her divine sense. This caused her to be unable to sense all the things that were occurring in the surrounding area. Since the 2 were rushing on their journey, they didn't really say anything to each other. With Xia Ningchang leading the way at the front and Kai Yang following closely behind, The two rode their horses in a straight line. It wasn't until nightfall that the two people found a water source to settle down at for the night. Sitting near the bonfire in a circle, they ate the food they had bought from Black Plum Village. From just one day together, Kai Yang had become quite familiar with this senior sister's nature. She is timid, shy, and when talked her ears turn red. She also always speaks softly, as soft as the wind, as if it was natural for her. Because of her nature, Kai Yang didn't take the initiative to talk to her, so as to avoid frightening the opposite party. Ever since he understood the character of the mysterious golden skeleton and gained an understanding of the mystical martial skill, he discovered that his true yang tactics had changed. At present, Kai Yang's true yang tactics could absorb yang qi and then condense it into yang liquid. But now, not having a yang environment, he can practice the true yang tactics to absorb the energy in the air, which can then be refined to form yang qi, which then could be absorbed into the golden skeleton. Environmental constraints for practicing this skill had suddenly disappeared. For Kai Yang, this was great news which brought him a great deal of happiness. After riding for 3 days on the road, they finally arrived at a small town thousands of miles from Sky Tower. With Xianxia words, they no longer needed horses for the rest of the journey. Only the mountains were ahead. In town they stabled their horses and found an inn to stay at for the time being. According to Xianxia, they couldn't use horses for journey ahead, because of the hilly nature of the terrain. Xianxia was very irritated. After all, she had asked him for help. Va had been neglecting him unexpectedly, and it really cannot be justified. Kai Yang va Xianxia lived in adjoining rooms. In a brightly lit room, Kai Yang was meditating and practicing. Meanwhile, Xianxia was indulged in a flight of fancy. But each time she tried to talk to him, at the last moment she can't help but get discouraged. She has been used to observing him secretly, but now suddenly has contact with him face to face. Va does not know what to do. Moreover, this fellow is also an uncommunicative person. If she talked to him, can that make him dislike her? While Xianxia is worrying about this, in the inn there are another two groups quietly watching these two people's movements. In another candle-lit room, Long Hui sits with the members of the blood group. On Long Hui's face is a frown. After the blood group obtained the news, they started the pursuit. Although a little late, they were finally able to catch up. Breaking the silence, Long Hui said suddenly, "Lord Wen, when do we begin? Kai Yang, that boy is in this inn. Given Lord Wen's skill, it is a simple matter to seize him, is it not? When Fei Chun is a middle-aged man, his strength has reached the true element boundary 5th layer. He is a leader of a fraction of the blood group. Because the news obtained by Long Hui is accurate, he asked the Lord to accompany them for the purpose of capturing Xianxia alive. Beside this group of people of Wen Fei Chun, outside there is also many separation and reunion boundaries masters. They number around 6 or 7. It looks like Long Hui took steps to ensure that the plan is foolproof. It can even be described as a fanfare. When Fei Chun smiled, "Young Master Long, if you want me to begin, we can begin at any time. Although this is a small town, with my strength, wanting to deal with them is an easy matter. People on the side will not be alarmed and no clues will be left behind." "Then what are we waiting for?" Long Hui looks inspired. "Kai Yang must die and that female must be captured alive. It is said she is very beautiful. Since he dares to have ideas on my women, then this road goes other way too. I will have a taste of his women." When Fei Chun knows Long Hui's nature and has anticipated this response, he then said, "But Master Long, one must think. Why have they rushed to this place from afar?" "Why?" Long Hui asked. Wei Fei Chun hesitated for a moment, then said, "I believe that their trip has a goal for sure. Perhaps they must enter Black Wind Mountain, seeking some treasure." Long Hui's brows wrinkled. "This does not have anything to do with us. In Black Wind Mountain many people go looking for treasure, but are lost to never come back again." Wei Fei Chun shakes his head saying, "Master Long, this is incorrect. They can enter Black Wind Mountain from Sky Tower, but they have actually ridden horses for thousands of miles before finally stopping here. If I have not guessed wrongly, tomorrow they will enter the mountain from here. Their goals are quite explicit, and then it is simple to confirm this matter. They know what they are looking for and where to find it. If we follow in behind quietly when they have found it, He has to say the observation of Wei Fei-chun is very exquisite. The analysis is also quite accurate. Worthy is a man of wisdom. Long Hui's expression at present is bright. When they find it, we can go and rob. Wei Fei-chun smiles. It is as Master Long said. However, if Master Long cannot wait for the beautiful woman, I can get her tonight. I will not let you down. Long Hui hesitated slightly and looked a bit confused. When Fei-chun is good at tunneling into his thoughts. But if Master Long waits for several days, not only may he have the beautiful woman, treasure young master may also have. Think if they spend untold hardship to seek the treasure and it was snatched by us. That Kai Yang, will he not be spitting blood madly? Listening to him, Long Hui looks stern. Good if they run. In any case, the Buddhist priest cannot escape the temple. Then let Kai Yang live for several more days, while we obtain the advantage without labor like elderly fishermen. Then Wei Fei-chun said with a light smile, endurance is uncommon. Master Long is destined to do great things. Ha! The Lord went over praises. Long Hui was swallowing his flattery comfortably. Given when Fei-chun was attempting to curry favor with Long Hui, he naturally wouldn't oppose his idea. Although Blood Group's master Hu Man was very fierce and ambitious, it didn't matter since he didn't have a successor. Only 2 daughters beautiful as jade. As far as when Fei-chun was concerned, sooner or later the Blood Group would fall into the hands of the Long family. Now that he is with young Master Long, he must try to curry favor with him, for future benefits. The discussions in the room had finally ended, so everyone got ready to get some rest. Suddenly from opposite side of the door came a gentle knock. Come in. When Fei-chun said lightly, the door opened and a Blood Group disciple walked in from outside. Giving a salute to Long Hui, he then whispered something into Wei Fei-chun's ear softly. Wei Fei-chun's face changed immediately. So that's how it is. He then signaled several disciples in the room and ordered them, go and seize those people. Do not let them escape, as it would be bad for Master Long's plan. Yes. Several people in room complied and hastily moved out. What happened? Long Hui urgently asked. Wei Fei-chun haha smiles. Master Long, this matter is very interesting. Remember when we were traveling here, along the way there were many horse hoof prints on the road. According to news which I just received, we are not the only ones pursuing Kai Yang's. Kill him. It looks like we have company. Oh! Long Hui sounded surprised. Who is it? Several small disciples from Storm House. At this very moment they are preparing to attack Kai Yang. It looks like they can't deal with Kai Yang when he is together with that female. They will be bringing their own destruction. Long Hui sneered and continued, what does Lord Wen want to do with them? Naturally, I cannot let Master Long's important plan be ruined. When Fei-chun said while bowing slightly, the sound of people talking on the opposite side of door can be heard before many people burst into the room through the door. These are the disciples from the Blood Group who went out a moment ago, and it looks like they all came back uninjured, accompanied by startled-faced Nu Lang. Nu Lang's group was very frightened. They had managed to pursue Kai Yang with great difficulty, and just when they were planning to bust into the room and capture Kai Yang to inquire about the missing Nu Tao and Cheng Xiaofeng, they were captured. Who would have thought that before they could execute their plan, they would be surrounded by a group of devils, whose strength surpassed even their leader. Nu Lang was scared shitless after being released. He hastily kowtowed to beg for mercy. Seniors, we didn't offend you, right? This one pleads for you to spare us. Shut up. A Blood Group disciple waved his arm and hit him hard with his palm. Nu Lang's mouth became bloody due to the hit. He felt very indignant but didn't dare to say anything and could only shut up and listen obediently. Nu Lang nervously looked around. The other Storm House disciples were all shivering with fright. Their strength was not very high, so they couldn't even try to escape. Any one of these people was enough to kill them. On top of that, there were 6-7 people who were encircling them on all sides. Had they bothered anyone recently? The Storm House disciples were also confused. This time they did not annoy anyone on the way. They just came here to catch Kai Yang, but had not even gotten their hands on him before they were captured. How did it become such a big fuss? Nu Lang looked around and suddenly discovered a youth in the opposing group who looked a little familiar. He stared at them with a smile. Thinking carefully, Nu Lang's facial color changed. Probing, he asked, "Are you blood groups Long Hui?" Long Hui chuckled. "Do you know me?" Nu Lang smiled awkwardly. "Naturally I can recognize you, for I have heard so about Long Senior's descendants. Since you are able to recognize me, this matter has become very easy to solve," Long Hui said lightly. Nu Lang became filled with suspicion. No matter what, he wouldn't have thought he would meet with people from blood group, such a great distance away from home. Meeting old friends far from home, although it is good indeed, but in their present situation, weak people need to lower their heads. "I want to ask you, why are you pursuing Kai Yang?" Long Hui asked with squinted eyes. This question caused Nu Lang's heart to be startled. He looked at Long Hui and did not dare to conceal anything. After telling him the whole story, he says with a long face, "Master Long, I suspect that the matter of my missing younger brother and Kai Yang are related. If you have a problem, I will immediately bring my people back to Stormhouse and absolutely will never have any ideas about hurting Kai Yang." Long Hui smiled. "Do you think that Kai Yang and I are friends? Is not it so?" Nu Lang asked timidly. "What a joke!" Long Hui sneered. "What is this lord's status? And what is his status? How can we be friends? You have got a pair of blind dog eyes." Nu Lang did not dare to say anything, but in his heart he was criticizing. "Since you are not friends, then why are you disrupting our gratitude and grudges? Isn't it nosy to mind others' business? It looks like you really do have a pair of blind dog eyes. This time, young Master Long has saved your life, and unexpectedly, you do not know how to thank him," a blood group disciple said reprovingly. Nu Lang looked confused. The blood group disciple sneered. "You only know Kai Yang's strength to be low, but do you know that the female on his side is a master of the separation and reunion boundary level?" With these few words, Nu Lang and his group started sweating profoundly. Separation and reunion boundary. Compared to Nu Lang, who is only in the Qi transforming stage, they have surpassed him by 2 big boundaries. If they were to have attempted to extract revenge for Nu Tao, they would have been annihilated. At this moment, Nu Lang knew that he had made a big blunder. Suddenly he was fearful, then he rejoiced. He quickly kowtowed over and over again. "Many thanks to young Master Long for saving us. My brothers and I are very grateful." The group of Stormhouse disciples hurried to express their gratitude. "Well, it looks like you do know how to show gratitude after all." Long Hui looked to be enjoying himself. "I'm not afraid of telling you the reason for me coming this far, for I am here to take Kai Yang's life. But it looks like we will need to wait a few more days. Because of your actions, my plan was nearly ruined. The others and I did not know, but we ask young Master Long for his forgiveness." Nu Lang looked awed. "Okay, I will not haggle with you over this matter. It looks like everybody's goal is Kai Yang, and with me you can get to Kai Yang. When we have seized Kai Yang, you may inquire about your younger brother's whereabouts." Although Nu Lang's heart was very uneasy about this, but with the strength of opposite side, how could he dare disobey? At this moment he could only nod and say, "Master Long, I will wait for your instruction come hell or high water, and even risk my life without hesitation. Go to your room for now, tomorrow we will find you." Long Hui said, dismissing him with a wave of his hand. "Yes." Nu Lang crawled up from the ground slowly before retreating to wait in his room. Only once he was in his room did he realize that his clothes were soaked in sweat. After they had left, Long Hui looked doubtfully at Wen Fei Qin. "Lord One, why do we need to let them go with us? Their strength is too low and they will easily expose us. Our people can easily deal with Kai Yang, we only need to capture that female." Previously, what was said was Wen Fei Qin speaking through Long Hui. Although things were going according to plan, Long Hui didn't analyze it too deeply. Hearing the disdain in Long Hui's voice, Wen Fei Qin smiled. "Killing Kai Yang and capturing that female. Naturally, we wouldn't want those people to interfere. But young Master Long, since Kai Yang and that girl have decided to enter Black Wind Mountain, then they should have already made preparations for the dangers ahead. But we are different. Even our strengths aren't low. Even if we don't mention those high-level demonic beasts, there are still various dangers. Just those natural traps and poisons alone are enough to whittle away at our manpower. But if someone were to walk ahead of us and clear the way, then we wouldn't need to worry about a thing." After hearing this, Long Hui understood where Wen Fei Chun was going. He wanted to use the Storm House people to scout ahead and avoid any hidden dangers ahead. Hallmaster Wen truly thinks ahead. I have indeed neglected this point. Long Hui nodded his head faintly. Young Master is naturally gifted. It's just that you haven't experienced much of the world yet, so you are still honest and naturally you wouldn't think of this tactic. Wen Fei Chun chuckled. As to how they would deal with the Storm House disciples later, the two came a mutual understanding without saying another word. The female called Xianxia, at such a young age had already reached the separation and reunion boundary, so she definitely had a powerful supporter teaching her from the shadows. With these types of people, you could either avoid offending them or pluck them out from the roots. So none of the Storm House disciples could be left breathing. Only after arranging the appropriate things did the blood group begin their preparations to enter Black Wind Mountain. The next day, Kai Yang and Xianxia truly moved according to Wen Fei Chen's prediction and left the small village, directly entering Black Wind Mountain. Only after half a day had passed did the blood group and Storm House people dare to follow after them. Since Xianxia's cultivation wasn't low, if they followed too closely behind them, then she would discover them, and if the distance was too great, then they would lose track of them. So half a day's worth of waiting was more than enough. Furthermore, Wen Fei Chen had many years of experience in the Jianghu, so he was adept at tracking. He was confident that he wouldn't be unable to follow the tracks of these two youngsters in the mountains. Entering Black Wind Mountain, Kai Yang and Xianxia's speed naturally slowed down. Without the sound of the horses and the distance between them, the two naturally started to converse with each other. In just one day's worth of time, the two felt their relationship had become closer than ever before. When night fell, Kai Yang and Xianxia found a tall tree and climbed up its trunk to rest in it for the night. Although the branch was very wide, when the two of them rested upon the branch, there was only a small gap between them, close enough for Kai Yang to smell whiffs of Xianxia's scent. Little senior sister. After interacting for a while, there was no longer that feeling of estrangement between them. Even the way they addressed each other had changed. This was also due to the fact that Kai Yang felt that Xianxia was like a child, especially those big round eyes of hers, naive and without any trace of impurity. Even the way she talked was full of simplicity and cuteness. Senior sister is just senior sister. Why do you need to add an extra little? Xianxia asked a bit unhappily. In that bundle of yours, what did you put inside? Kai Yang didn't reply to her answer and instead pointed to the bundle placed next to her. That question had already tormented him for the past 4 or 5 days, and Kai Yang couldn't hold it in anymore, so he asked her. This Just like that, Xianxia was easily diverted from the previous subject. Lifting up the package, she hugged it like it was a treasure and replied, These are the materials prepared by Master these past years, because if you successfully receive those 9 Indu crystals, then I must refine them on the spot. The 9 Indu crystals are very special, because if you don't refine them within 2 hours of obtaining them, they would slowly started to dissipate. So it was like this. Kai Yang nodded his head in understanding. Junior brother, Xianxia suddenly called out intimately. What's the matter? I have a question I want to ask you. Good timing. I also have a question I want to ask you. Kai Yang grinned. Then we must both honestly answer, all right? Okay. Then I'll start. Xianxia said, impatiently. Go in ahead and ask. He chuckled. I promise I won't lie to you. Pursing her lips, Xianxia swiveled her body around and hesitated for a moment before asking. I heard from Master that when he asked you to help him, you made all sorts of excuses to reject him. But when you heard it was me that needed assistance, you swiftly agreed. Why is that? What do you think? Kai Yang also turned his head around and asked. Staring at each other's eyes, Xianxia's face became red, and she hurriedly diverted her head and shyly said, I don't know why, but Master said that you don't carry good intentions and told me to stay vigilant around you. Old man Meng said this? Kai Yang said angrily. Xianxia trusted her master greatly and replied without any guilt. This old man. This caused Kai Yang to be indignant beyond belief. What did that old man think I was? Then why did you agree without any hesitation? Glancing at her, Kai Yang hee laughed out. What your master said was correct. I truly don't hold any good intentions towards you. That's why I agreed so readily. As he laughed sardonically, he also slowly inched closer towards Xia Chong. Startled, Xia Chong instinctively retreated backwards, before she suddenly remembered something. Junior brother, you are unable to defeat me. This was actually the truth, and Kia Yang considered that if he continued to act brazenly, then he would soon find himself flying out of the tree. Although Xianing Chong was innocent and cute, that didn't mean that she was easily dealt with. Withdrawing his grin, Kai Yang's expression became serious again, and he slowly took out a bottle from within his clothes. Stroking it carefully, he said, "Because of this." Xianing Chong was extremely confused as she lowered head to look closer at the object, and she saw that it was a small bottle of Sky Tower's external injury balm, blood-clotting cream. The events that had occurred 2 months earlier flashed through her mind, causing her to cover her mouth in surprise. Foolishly, she stared at Kai Yang, because she never thought that he would keep this little bottle of blood-clotting cream. Chuckling lightly, Kai Yang spoke. Those who treat me well, I, Kai Yang, can still tell. It has been 3 years since I entered, and this bottle of blood-clotting cream was the first token of warmth I have experienced this whole time. How did you know? Xianing Chong looked at him in disbelief. This bottle of cream was left for Kai Yang by her. But wasn't he unconscious at the time? Kai Yang's eyebrows lifted up a bit. There is a saying, smelling the scent of a woman tells all. This caused her face to be painted red, for the words were slightly lecherous sounding. But her heart and mind loosened. It seemed that just from a small bottle of blood-clotting cream that cost only 10 contribution points was the reason why he had agreed unconditionally. It seemed that master was wrong. It's your turn to ask now. Since she had cleared the doubts in her heart, Xianing Chong would feel embarrassed if she continued to ask further. Thus, she hurriedly went to change the subject. Kai Yang then carefully put the bottle back in his clothes and then asked, "The reason why Treasurer Meng didn't come wasn't really because of an old illness, right?" Xianing Chong momentarily became embarrassed and replied after some time, "I used medicine to knock him unconscious." Stunned, Kai Yang suddenly erupted into a fit of laughter, and no matter what, he couldn't stop. "What are you laughing about?" She was both angry and ashamed. That night he suddenly said I no longer needed to come, and in desperation I knocked him unconscious. Kai Yang continued to laugh, so Xianing Chong hit him a few times. It was only afterwards she realized how intimate her actions were, and was left at a loss on what to do. "I'm going to rest now. You continue to laugh to yourself." Xianing Chong couldn't bear to continue to stay there. Wrapping herself up, she jumped to the nearby branch and no longer paid any attention to Kai Yang. After walking through the Black Wind Forest for several days, Kai Yang realized, to his surprise, that they hadn't encountered any dangerous beasts. This caused him to be filled with anxiety, because Black Wind Mountain was filled with formidable demonic beasts. Furthermore, if they happened to bump into any, due to his current cultivation, he would only be a burden for Xianing Chong. But Xianing Chong had come prepared. Kai Yang didn't know what method she used to avoid the demonic beasts in this forest, but it worked. Their route often changed from east to west. Sometimes they would circle around a place, or they would circle around a bigger place. But it was thanks to this circling that they had remained so safe. Occasionally they would bump into a beast of the second or third realm. However, they would be quickly dealt with by Ning Chong with minimal effort. After carefully observing her for some time, Kai Yang discovered that Xianing Chong was able to discover existence of formidable demonic beasts, thanks to the deep-colored bracelet on her wrist. Whenever this little senior sister felt a high-level demonic beast obstructing their path, she activated her bracelet, which then sent out a deep green ray. This was a bracelet she hadn't been wearing previously. From top to bottom, her only accessory was the sapphire on her forehead. So this bracelet should have been prepared specially for their current expedition. This was surely a rare treasure. Kai Yang's eye fell on the bracelet, and from what he could see it looked like it was given to her by Treasurer Meng. Ultimately, what was the background of Old Man Meng? Kai Yang was truly puzzled. He was merely a contribution hall treasurer, yet he was able to get Xianing Chong, with her special physique, as a disciple. Moreover, he has a rare treasure he can afford to give to her. This bracelet, if in a normal place, would be placed under the highest security and would not be carelessly given to anyone. Although he didn't know its grade, he estimated that it should at least be an Earth-grade rare treasure. A treasure of this rank was rarely seen in Sky Tower. While Kai Yang and Xianxia were able to pass through easily, the people tagging behind suffered many bloody battles to the death. During the past several days, small and large battles occurred several times. If it was not for the overall level of the blood group being so high, they probably would have become demonic beast food by now. Although when Fei Chun was a true element boundary fifth boundary powerhouse, his luck wasn't very good. Just that moment their group bumped into a peak fifth realm demonic beast, equivalent to a peak true element boundary powerhouse. Several levels above his present strength. An incomparably difficult fight ensued. Through taking advantage of their numbers, they were able to deal with it. However, due to this battle, the blood group lost a master of the separation and reunion boundary. This caused Wen Fei Chun to become extremely angry because a total of 8 people had come, but he was the only true element boundary master. The separation and reunion boundary group only had 4 people remaining, and rest were only at the Qi transforming stage mid-level. Long Hui's strength was the weakest of all, at the lower levels of the Qi transforming stage. Originally they thought that as long as they followed Kai Yang and Xianxia's trail, they wouldn't encounter any big dangers. But God only knows how those two were able to avoid these demonic beasts, while their followers, encountered battle after battle. And now they had lost a separation and reunion boundary master. Why wouldn't Wen Fei Chun get angry? But it wasn't the time to back down. Not after losing so many people. How could they give up halfway? After taking a short break, Wen Fei Chun said to Nu Lang, "Go in front, we must get going." Nu Lang looked on the ground at an abandoned limb absent-mindedly. Earlier, the blood group had lost some people, so how could their lowly Stormhouse disciples stay safe? 2 disciples from Stormhouse were swallowed into the belly of a 5th realm demonic beast, leaving only half an arm left on ground. He finally understood why he had felt something was not right that night. Where were the good intentions of the blood group to help them look for Kai Yang? It just was to make the people from Stormhouse the pathfinders along the way. But even if he understood in his heart, he wouldn't dare to complain, not to mention revolt. Forging the way at the front, perhaps they could also have a chance to live. But if they revolted at this time, then there is only death awaiting them. With a pale complexion, Nu Lang made a disciple from Stormhouse walk in front. Behind him, Wen Fei Chun gave instructions. Heading from the east towards the west, from time to time they also lost Kai Yang's trail. At this moment, Kai Yang, who was hurrying along with Xianxia, suddenly stopped in his step, turning his head to look towards a direction. His eyes glittered with a joyful look. "What is the matter?" Xianxia turned her head to ask, while stopping. "Is there any danger over there?" Kai Yang asked, pointing to one side. "Doesn't have any danger. I haven't felt any trace of a demonic beast." Xianxia lowered her head to look at own bracelet. "Then let's go." Kai Yang moved rashly. Although Xianxia doesn't know why he was so happy, so can only follow. Although Xianxia was at a loss as to why Kai Yang was so happy, she still followed him. Walking for a short distance of only a few tens of feet, Xianxia suddenly felt steam on her skin. This caused her face to become red. Looking around, the ground was Yang-type Qi, and the ground was unexpectedly covered with a variety of palm-sized, big, red flowers. The quantity of flowers was not small. There were at least a dozen of them. Kai Yang was unceremoniously quickly picking up these flowers. In total, he picked 11 of these flowers. After a short time, Kai Yang had reaped a great harvest and was walking happily. He asked, "What do you think these are?" "Mysterious crimson yang flower, Earth-grade low-level material." "So you came here for these things?" Xianxia was suddenly enlightened. Earth-grade lower-level material. Kai Yang's brows creased together. Not bad. He could feel the yang energy contained in each mysterious crimson yang flower was not inferior to the 3 sun fruit. A moment ago the yang energy contained in his chest had reacted. He arrived at this place to look at what had caused it and in turn reaped a bountiful harvest. Since they were in the Black Wind Mountains inner region, the valuables around should be few in number. But this time the goal was to help Xianxia. Even if he had thoughts of searching all directions, he couldn't do it. Delaying time like this would be taking a major risk. But since it was in vicinity of his senses, naturally it can't be left alone. Want me to help you refine them? Xianxia asked. You don't have to right now. Let's wait until evening. At that time we can refine them. The refining method for a pill of immortality from Little Senior Sister is superb, but refining will always consume world qi. Walking in this dense forest, Kaiyang is still thinking to be careful every step of the way. If consumption of world qi can be avoided, then it should be avoided. Sounds good. Xianxia nodded. We are not far from that place. After walking for 2-3 more days, we can reach our destination. We have got enough time. Kaiyang did not know whether it was luck or something else. Walking for 1 day, he was able to find several yang energy treasures at a distance of only 1 day's walk from the mysterious crimson yang flowers. But this time his luck was not so good. These yang energy herbal medicines had a level 3 demonic beast protecting them. Xianxia was able to deal with that demonic beast by exhausting some of her world qi, so that Kaiyang could harvest them. After passing through the forest, they arrived at a giant mountain valley. Xianxia said in one long breath, Junior brother, we have arrived. The mountain in front of them was very big, while the valley around it was at least several tens of li. Furthermore, the valley was perfectly circular. From where Kaiyang was standing, when he lowered his head to look down, he discovered that the depth of valley from their current position was about 300 feet. The valley below was green and lush. There was nothing to distinguish it from the outside jungle. The scenery in the valley was very beautiful. Verdant hills and limpid waters. The landscape wasn't bad. Xianxia looked down at her bracelet carefully. After some time, she jumped joyfully. Our luck is very good. There aren't any formidable demonic beasts down there. While she spoke, she couldn't help but start to relax, because on the way here she was able to avoid high-level demonic beasts blocking their path. But if there were dangerous demonic beasts in the valley, they could only fight them. After all, their destination was precisely this place. It looks very ordinary, Kaiyang said, frowning. Don't worry, it's just not time yet. Xianxia showed a faint smile. If not for passing through this place accidentally with Master, then perhaps we wouldn't be able to discover this mysterious place. It was also at that time that Master conceived the idea of refining the 9 Indu crystals. But why did he go back at such a critical time? Also, you haven't told me how I am going to help you obtain them. For the past few days they had been rushing the journey, and Kaiyang was not eager to know the reason why. Now that they had arrived at the destination, he could not help but ask, what if when the time comes, when the 9 Indu crystals actually appear, he didn't know how to capture them? Wouldn't he be ruining important plans? Therefore, some preparation needed to be made beforehand. When the time comes, I will tell you. Xianxia still didn't explain. Kaiyang was still doubtful but did not continue to ask. After all, this matter was quite mysterious. Treasurer Meng's temper before was still causing Kaiyang some confusion. But since he had promised to help them, he would have to help them with everything he's got when the time comes. Come. Xianxia beckoned to Kaiyang. Kaiyang looked at her curiously. Where? I'm going to carry you down. Xianxia replied while blinking her big eyes. We are at quite a high altitude. I can go myself, said Kaiyang while refusing her offer. In a joking manner, he said, I am a man, how can I let a woman carry me down? What would it look like? After saying that, he proceeded to jump down. Xianxia screamed, as Kaiyang was falling like a meteorite towards the ground, scattering leaves and plants everywhere. Xianxia was quite frightened. Kaiyang's strength was not that high after all, but after jumping from such a height, would he be able to live to see tomorrow? At that moment she followed him down, preparing to help him at the critical moment. The speed of their fall was increasing steadily, and when they were 7 feet from ground, Kaiyang's legs struck the mountain wall and rebounded him off the wall. Kaiyang did several somersaults, gradually breaking the speed of his fall before finally landing with a big bang. Kaiyang's legs formed a curved pit in the ground with dust flying upwards. Xianxia then fell gently at his side. Between the two of them, One was like a fairy returning to Earth, and the other was like a human rock falling to the ground. There were no similarities between them. No matter what, they still kept calm and steady after the jump. Kai Yang's skin had some scratches, and there were some twigs on his clothes, and both of his legs were slightly trembling. Xianing Chong pursed her lips while suppressing a smile. With her ability to judge, she could just see it. But her good junior brother had already suffered some losses. 30 feet, with his initial element third stage strength, jumping down with just the strength, even with an extra jump, it would be considered a miracle if he landed on the ground safely. Xianing Chong pretended to look around and then said, "Today is the 5th day, and after 2 days it will be the 7th. I'm going to need to arrange something in this mountain valley. Junior brother, wait for me here, since there is no danger in this area anyways." Kai Yang's expression was solemn as he silently nodded in response. Xianing Chong started walking, but after taking a few steps she turned around again to reassure him and said, "The arrangement will take quite some time, so do not run all over the place. Otherwise I may not be able to find you." Kai Yang nodded his head once again slightly, looking grim, as his handsome face was slowly turning sour. Waiting for Xianing Chang's shadow to disappear from his line of sight, Kai Yang finally sat on the ground, rubbing his painful and sore legs with his 2 hands. Although he was able to reduce the speed of his fall while he was falling, the fall was still quite painful. After quite a while, the numbness in his legs faded away. Kai Yang didn't stay still for long, and he started searching around. Although Xianing Chong had told him this place was safe, it was always good to be careful. After checking the mountain valley, he wasn't able to discover any dangers nearby. Kai Yang had to wait until the afternoon of the following day before Xianing Chong finally returned back to the mountain valley. Even though he didn't know what she had arranged around the valley, he was able to tell that this arrangement had consumed quite a bit of her world chi, judging by her pale complexion. "I am going to go rest first. Tonight between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. the 9 Yin dew crystals will gather together and open. They will remain open until sunrise. We must find the 9 Yin dew crystals, then obtain them. If we are unable to succeed within that time, they will go into hiding once more," Xianing Chong said anxiously, before putting several grains of compounding drugs in her mouth and forcing herself to close her mouth. She then sat down to meditate. Kai Yang stood next to her, protecting her while following the Buddhist law, motionless like a sculpture. Somewhere nearby the mountain valley, several miles away, the members of the Blood Group and Stormhouse were distressed. Following Kai Yang and Xianing Chong, they penetrated the interior of Blackwind Mountain, but they suffered a great loss doing so. There were originally 17 people, and now only 13 people remained. The others had lost their lives due to the constant demonic beast attacks. In the Blood Group, they still had 7 people left, but they had once again lost a Separation and Reunion Boundary Master. Now there were only 3 Separation and Reunion Boundary Masters remaining. Many of them had wounds on their bodies. Wei Fei Chen's chest had bloodstains. The 2 remaining Qi transforming stage disciples were utterly exhausted. In the Stormhouse group there were only 6 people remaining. Apart for Nu Lang, who was in the Qi transforming first stage, there were 4 disciples at the initial element stage. The final member, his luck was too good. The only blow he had received was to his head, leaving him mentally disabled. Out of all the people present, the only one still in perfect condition was Long Hui. His status was special. Even during the most difficult fights he was protected and kept on the inside. Thus naturally he was impossible to kill or injure. After pursuing Kai Yang for several days, Long Hui had finally lost his patience. "Hallmaster 1, do we still need to pursue? Pursuing further will only lead to more losses. And when the time comes for grandfather to investigate, who will take responsibility for this?" When Fei Chun was thoroughly angered that Long Hui wanted him to carry this burden. "If not because I wanted to please you, I wouldn't have made such a decision, and if I had known earlier that this trip was going to be this dangerous, would I have had the guts to follow? If so, I would have already killed Kai Yang in that small village." Although in his heart he was thinking this, when Fei Chun only said, "There is no need to pursue any further. Evidently they have already arrived at their destination. It seems that the mountain valley ahead was their goal." As soon as he heard those words, Long Hui's expression shook. "What you just said. You said the thing that they're looking for is just up ahead. That's right. They should have arrived there yesterday. But even after such a long time, they still haven't moved. So it's likely that they reached their destination. When Fei Chen smirked. Then what are we still waiting for? Didn't we chase them all the way here? For this moment. Long Huey's heart pounded. Obtaining treasures, all these were secondary. All he wanted right now was to see Xia Ningchang's true appearance. He had held it in for so many days already. How could he still hold it? When Fei Chen only smiled. Although they have arrived at their destination, it seems that they have yet to find what they are looking for. Young Master Long, please bear it for a bit longer. This one promises that the female won't fly away. Long Hui was somewhat impatient, because previously when Fei Chen had said those same words in the small village. And during their journey here, they had suffered great losses, so naturally he was unwilling to keep waiting. But he couldn't express his emotion plainly, so after thinking about it for a while, he could only say, "Then we shall wait 2 more days. 2 days later, if they haven't made a move, then we shall." When Fei Chen nodded his head helplessly and sighed internally. Someone useless like Long Hui who only had women in his mind, in the future, he would only be a useless person. It was late in the night before Xia Ningchang finally opened her eyes. The previous battered look was gone from her eyes. It was clear that she was fully recovered. Saying a quick thanks, she and Kai Yang took out some provisions to eat. Soon it will be the Z hour 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., and this mountain valley will be filled with energy. Junior brother, your cultivation is far from mine, and the amount of world qi you possess is limited and should not be squandered. Xia Ningchang warmly, but seriously reminded him. N. Kai Yang nodded his head in understanding. Although he possessed 10 or so drops of yang liquid in his dantian, and needn't worry about the energy problems, but he wouldn't say that out loud. Just as the two were talking, something suddenly changed within the mountain valley. According to logic, in this type of mountain valley with high cliffs on all 4 sides, there shouldn't be any wind. But currently, ill, howling wind had begun to blow within the valley, like a woman weeping at night, chilling the heart. Following the ill wind, cold air rose up from the ground, forcibly activating Kai Yang's true yang tactics. This cold air wasn't like the winter's chill. Rather, it was more like the chill brought by a ghost or malicious creature, freezing one all the way to their core. The speed at which the true yang tactics worked had to increase yet again before Kai Yang could disperse the chill within his heart. Junior brother, Xia Ningchang called out and pulled Kai Yang to her side, quickly taking out a purple jade pendant. As soon as Kai Yang came closer to Xia Ningchang, he felt the coldness disappear and become replaced by a warmth that filled his entire body. Stay close to me and don't stray too far. This jade pendant can counter the cold from the yin energy. His eyes widening in astonishment, Kai Yang looked over at the purple-colored jade pendant in Xia Ningchang's hand. Looking at it, he saw that it was a secret artifact, and due to her injection of world qi, it emitted a glow, dispersing the surrounding yin energy. Kai Yang was shocked. This senior sister's wrist held a secret artifact, and now the jade pendant she took out was another secret artifact. How many of these did she have? Why are you staring at me? Xia Ningchang's face turned red and her voice as soft as a matzi. Staring blankly, Kai Yang took a moment to realize that what he was doing was a bit inappropriate. Because the area of protection from this jade pendant wasn't too large, when the two people stood together, their bodies were basically sticking together. His own shoulder and arm could clearly feel her body temperature, her body's softness, and he could smell her unique scent. This situation was definitely the same for Xia Ningchang. This intimate situation was somewhat difficult for her to bear. Even her eyes showed signs of her shyness and had gathered a layer of liquid, and her neck was just as red as her face. Your world qi is very precious, so you mustn't use it here. You can only use it to subdue the 9 yin dew crystals later. With nothing to say, Xia Ningchang forced out something to say, to keep her attention away from their current situation and from Kai Yang's body temperature. But the more she tried to avoid thinking about it, the more she thought about. This is only the beginning of this period. Later on, this entire mountain valley will be completely covered in dense yin energy. Junior brother, you definitely mustn't leave my side. or the results will be unimaginable. Okay. Kaiyang nodded his head lightly. The two people no longer said anything. In such a position, with their bodies sticking together at such close proximity, they quietly waited. A beating heart. So frantic, it tingled. Xianxia's body began to heat up more and more. This was the first time in her life that she felt as if thorns were stinging her heart, and her entire body itched. Even if she wanted to move, she couldn't. It was at the point where she had started to tremble. Kaiyang also felt her embarrassment. Seeing her blood-red skin, he knitted his eyebrows together and said, "How about I go outside?" He still held some confidence that he would be able to block the surrounding yin energy himself, because his true yang tactics was the nemesis of yin energy. Even if it did expend energy, it wouldn't use a lot of energy. For this little senior sister was too innocent. Seeing her this uncomfortable, Kaiyang also felt bad. "Don't." Xianxia quickly shook her head. "Just stand by my side. Definitely don't leave." Because she was this adamant, Kaiyang was left at a loss. On the other side, the blood groups group had already sensed the changes occurring in the valley and all rushed over. Looking down at the yin energy below, when Fei Chen probed about and pondered. Long Hui's spirits were rising. "Hallmaster 1, have they started to act already?" As long as Kaiyang and Xianxia moved, then his group would be able to charge down without any hesitation. He didn't reply immediately and instead continued to look around. There definitely was something strange happening down below, but even with all of Wen Fei Chen's experience and knowledge, he still wasn't sure what it was. Seeing Long Hui's impatience, he grudgingly said, "Whether they moved or not, it is still unclear, but certainly there should be some mysterious object down there. How about we?" Before Wen Fei Chen could finish his words, he was impatiently cut off by Long Hui. "Don't wait anymore. Since the object has decided to show itself, whether or not they make a move is no longer important. Hallmaster 1, how about we go deal with them now? Afterwards, it still wouldn't be too late to retrieve that treasure." Sighing, Wen Fei Chen could only nod his head. "Okay then. You all go." In the night's darkness, a sinister light flashed through Long Hui's eyes. Later on he would be able to capture that masked female and take her cover away to reveal her full glory, then pin her beneath himself to enjoy her bliss. Long Hui couldn't suppress the excitement he felt just thinking of it. Kaiyang, since you dare to have ideas about my woman, then you shall suffer the consequences that await you. Later I won't kill you. I'll personally let you witness how I will sully that woman, making her scream out miserably. I will then relish your anger and powerlessness." 13 people, no longer concealing their tracks, under Wen Fei Chen's directions, sprinted and jumped down into the mountain valley. That tempered body staged Stormhouse disciple was the most pitiful. With such a large height, he didn't dare to jump down. But he waited only to be mercilessly kicked down by Long Hui and directly fell to his death. An angry wave doesn't wait for people. The falling disciple felt extremely humiliated. People from the blood group and Stormhouse were making too much of a ruckus. And even before landing, the tempered body disciple had died with a pitiful yell. Due to the outburst of yin energy, his yell traveled far and wide. Listening to this, Kaiyang and Xianxia's faces both changed colors. They turned their heads to look in the direction from where the yell had originated. They hadn't known that they were being tracked by enemies. Wen Fei Chen's tracking method was quite good, and the distance at which he tracked them from was also quite a good distance, so the danger of being discovered was also close to none. Although Xianxia was at the peak of the separation and reunion boundary, she still wasn't able to sense things happening too far away from herself. By doing some mental arithmetic regarding the tracking distance, Wen Fei Chen was able to successfully tail them. "How come there are other people here?" Xianxia furrowed her delicate eyebrows. Something wasn't right. Kaiyang's expression also turned cold. According to his little senior sister, this place was ordinary throughout the year, and only on the 7th of July did this change take place. This couldn't have come to attention of anyone. In other words, those people who were not that far away came for exact same thing as them. Either they knew about this change or they were here for them. The possibility of latter was enormous, and it looked like they had quite a large number of people on their side. But thankfully, some of them died while jumping down the cliff. If these people came to Black Wind Mountain to seek medicine or to hunt demonic beasts, they wouldn't bring people with such low levels of cultivation, and they wouldn't move in such large groups. Looks like we have got trouble. With many thoughts racing through his mind, Kai Yang suggested, "Let's flee first." "Okay." Xianxia nodded in agreement. "Where do you think you're going?" A cold voice transmitted from behind them. Then, suddenly a silhouette appeared a few feet in front of the two people, impeding their path. Kai Yang and Xianxia were startled by the sudden appearance of the powerhouse. Simultaneously, they dodged the palm, while vigilantly revolving their world chi. Before the person revealed their real intentions, Kai Yang didn't plan to confront them head-on. When Fei Qin arrived there to block Kai Yang and Xianxia, seeing them knowing their place, he didn't launch another attack, but instead calmly stood in same place. Kai Yang didn't enter his eyes, but when he saw Xianxia wearing the veil, when Fei Qin admired the beautiful pure girl in his heart, although he couldn't see her facial features, with those eyes clear like stars, her looks couldn't be common. More so, the figure of this girl was also outstanding. Looking at the eyes of this sexually attractive girl, when Fei Qin thoughts filled with a feeling of palpitating eagerness. But if it was Long Hui standing here instead of him, he was afraid of what shameful things he would do. All three were looking at each other vigilantly. Kai Yang looked for an escape route, but discovered that all means of escape were blocked by the chi of the middle-aged man. Just by standing there, he blocked all of their escape routes. This person is a true element boundary powerhouse, so junior brother, don't act rashly. Xianxia warned him in a soft voice. True element boundary. Kai Yang's breath slowed. His heart became more alert. After some time, the other people from Blood Group and Stormhouse caught up, and they were all looking at Kai Yang and Xianxia with bad intentions. "Who are you?" Kai Yang furrowed his brows, sizing them up, but discovered that he didn't know anyone in this group. In his heart, he was very suspicious. He actually didn't know that originally in this group there were many people with whom he was quite familiar. But because their strengths were low, they were eaten by demonic beasts on road, and the last remaining one had plunged to his death while jumping down the cliff earlier. "I am a person who wants to send you to your death." Long Hui came from behind when Fei Qin, smiling coldly. When saw Xianxia, his eyes immediately emitted green light. Looking at her with lewd eyes, he said, "Wonderful, wonderful. What a beautiful pure girl. This time really was worth it." Xianxia furrowed her delicate eyebrows, her face revealing her loathing of him. She hid quietly behind Kai Yang. Although her strength was higher than Kai Yang's by many times, she was very innocent. So hiding behind Kai Yang didn't have any meaning, but rather it was the instinct of a woman. Since she was so close to Kai Yang, he could feel two soft, delicate bumps on his back, and couldn't help but swallow while straightening his back. Under this crisis, Kai Yang's state of mind was steady, without any ripples. Hesitating, he asked, "Gentlemen, do we have grudges between us?" Now Kai Yang knew that the opposite party hadn't come here by chance. This was absolutely a deliberate trap. Otherwise, when meeting for first time, how can they be hostile? Are these enemies of Treasurer Meng and his disciple? All kinds of scenarios were playing out in Kai Yang's mind. Even though he can only die, at least he will know the reason why. Naturally, there are grudges. Long Hui knew victory was in his hands, so he didn't want to hide his status. "Boy, let me tell you, I am Blood Group Vice Guild Master Long Zai Tian's grandson. You dare to have ideas about Hui Mei Air, and did you ever think that because of it you would be in such a pinch today?" Kai Yang was stunned. He hadn't thought this time people were looking for trouble with him about this kind of thing. He had only met Hui Mei Air 3 times, and their friendship was not too close, yet it led to the jealousy of someone considering him a love rival. Kai Yang could only sighs in his heart as he was left speechless. However, Kai Yang hadn't forgotten the Long Zai Tian who was mentioned. Previously he had run into that old man in mining area of the Blood Group. The humiliation left behind during that encounter, he can never forget. Hearing Long Hui, Nu Lang also said gloomily, "Nu Tao is my younger brother. He and Chen Xiaofeng together have disappeared without a trace. Boy, I wanted to ask you if their disappearance have any relation to you." Turns out these two groups were looking for him. Kai Yang then immediately figured out everything that was going on. Sighing darkly, the first time he left the sect, he was actually followed by two groups of enemies, and they also brought along such a powerhouse. This time he had also involved Xianxia. Taking a deep breath, Kai Yang revealed a fearless face. He also lightly looked at Xianxia. His hands gently squashed Xianxia's hand. Then he said in a low voice, "It is my mess. You don't need to get involved. Find an opportunity to run away. Since this is his mess, he can't let Xianxia endure hardship. Her running away would also reduce the burden in his heart." Although Kai Yang's voice is very light, it was still heard by the opposite party. Long Hui laughed. "Running away? Do you think it will be easy? This young master was following you in the mountain forest for many days. How can he let you leave without paying you back? Kai Yang, you will die today without a doubt. As for her, after your death this little bitch will become my toy. Relax, I will not kill her immediately, but will play with her until she dies." Kai Yang's face turned cold. He shouted angrily, "Run!" Simultaneously his hands goes around and grasps Xianxia's arm. Under her astonished gaze he exhausted all of his strength to send her flying to safety. Wishful thinking. When Fei Chen smiled coldly before disappearing. Suddenly a palm attacked Xianxia's back. This strike of Wen Fei Chen's was not intended to kill but rather to stop Xianxia from escaping. Fortunately Xianxia was quite quick to respond. Although Kai Yang had caught her off guard and she had been swept away by his powerful strike, she swiftly turned around to borrow the momentum from Wen Fei Chen's strike. By borrowing its power, she lightly fell beside Kai Yang. "Hey!" Watching this occur, Kai Yang sighed inwardly. Having a true element boundary powerhouse assume command was equal to having well-trained soldiers and sturdy horses. Even if there had been hope they might make it out of this situation earlier, it looked like they were really doomed now. "Lord One, bring this female to me. If she dares to revolt again..." Long Hui smiled sinisterly before continuing coldly. "Break both her arms and legs, just don't damage her face too badly. I must have a look at what kind of peerless beauty is hiding under that veil." When Fei Chen gently smiled, "Master Long, please be at ease. I will not let her flee." He was also a little worried that if during the course of the fight he accidentally harmed Xianxia, Long Hui would blame him. But since he had said that he can break her arms and legs, what did Wen Fei Chen have to worry about? The young Master Long had very high ambitions, but he also knew his limits. He knew that he couldn't match this female, but if he could disable her arms and legs, then she wouldn't be able to rebel. This act may also cause her to act in a self-serving manner in an attempt to preserve her life. When their dialogue was heard by Kai Yang and Xianxia, their eyes revealed loathing. When Fei Chen said in a clear voice, "Little girl, you also heard Master Long's words. If you are sensible, then obediently lie down and I promise not to hurt you. But if you insist on resisting, I will not stay my hand." Xianxia spat out, "No way. Okay then." When Fei Chen smiled coldly, "You brought this upon yourself." His voice fading, his body soared like a swallow and both of his palms erupted with the strength of a true element boundary powerhouse. Just listening to the sound, it was like hearing an echoing tiger's roar. Suddenly the attack split into many smaller attacks and flew towards Xianxia. Feeling the might of attack, Xianxia also turned serious. Both her white hands flew out like they were dancing, while qi condensed around her index finger, touching the sapphire on her forehead, causing violent waves of qi to erupt from it. Although the power contained in the attacks originating from her sapphire was not small, they couldn't prevent much of the incoming attack. In the next instance, the attack arrived in front of Xianxia. This all happened so fast, there was no time for Kai Yang to react. The several attacks flew towards her, one after another. Those attacks severely wounded her, before suddenly the sapphire on her forehead emitted a mysterious and profound ripple, which was followed by a semicircular light, completely covering her and Kai Yang. When Wen Fei Chen's strike came in contact with the light curtain, it just dissolved away. Xianxia stood there motionlessly with a frosty expression. When Fei Chen dropped to the ground, his eyes staring at the light curtain with a shocked expression. His voice cracking, he said, "Heaven-grade treasure. Hearing these words, everyone's eyes became red, including the eyes of Long Hui, containing nothing but lust. What did you say? Long Hui finally diverted his attention from Xianing Chong and looked at Wen Fei Chun. His voice slightly shaking, he asked, Lord Wen, what did you say a moment ago? Wen Fei Chen's cheeks trembled. His eyes contained a faint trace of greed. Swallowing a mouthful of saliva, he said, Heaven-grade treasure. To resist my attack so easily. This is a heaven-grade treasure without a doubt. Are you serious? Long Hui was excited beyond belief. He hadn't thought that this time while eradicating this pipsqueak Kai Yang, who was nothing more than a bug. Not only would he obtain a beautiful woman, but he would also gain a heaven-grade treasure. Heaven-grade treasures are priceless items. In the blood group, only Hu Man was in possession of one of these. If this heaven-grade treasure were to land in his grandfather's lap, it could increase his strength by another level. Perhaps even Hu Man would no longer be his match. Seize, we must seize it. Long Hui shouted excitedly. Lord One, if you can snatch this, in the future the Vice Guild Master's position will belong to you. Hearing this, Wen Fei Chun looked inspired. Many thanks for young Master Long's care, although he said that he knew that breaking the defense of that heaven-grade treasure wouldn't be easy. Given how his earlier strike had no effect, he knew that this bone would be very hard to gnaw. However, luck was on their side. With this small girl's strength, she would be unable to protect both herself and Kai Yang for an extended period of time. So if he attacked unceasingly, there was a chance of breaking this light curtain. Begin! With this thought, Wen Fei Chun started to hit the light curtain. At the same time, other masters from the blood group also stepped forward to fiercely display their skills. Under these numerous strikes, many ripples were created on the light curtain. But, by the light curtain's protection, Xianing Chong and Kai Yang remained unharmed. Meanwhile, all the attacks were completely dissipated. This situation allowed Kai Yang a little hope for escape. Both his eyes glittered with this hope. His thoughts were flying rapidly in his head, trying to find a way out before the light curtain disappeared. Junior brother, are you afraid? Xianing Chong asked suddenly. Eh? Kai Yang turned his head to look at her. We could die, are you afraid? Afraid of what? You do not need to be afraid, Kai Yang said. Then he looked to the side where Long Hui was, thinking coldly that if he could seize that person, then everything would be solved. But wanting to break through the blockade of these powerhouses from the blood group who were protecting Long Hui wouldn't be easy. Perhaps even Xianing Chong, with her strength, would be unable to achieve it. I'm not afraid. Xianing Chong smiled gently. They do not know the consequences of their actions. Kai Yang was startled. Attempting to decipher her words, he suddenly felt that the mountain valley had become discolored. Midnight. On July 7th, Yin Qi would gather. The place where these 9 Yin dew crystals gather suddenly emitted a cold and gloomy Yin Qi one after another from within the ground. This Yin Qi formed a strange, big hand on surface of earth. Kept on growing bigger, whoever looked at it would be frightened. In the blink of an eye, the temperature in the mountain valley fell drastically. The bones seeping cold made everyone tremble. The powerhouses from the blood group suddenly realized that their world chi was being sucked away by the Yin Qi in the atmosphere. Although this Yin Qi was making these people uncomfortable, it was not life-threatening. As long as they could still circulate their world chi, it didn't pose a big problem. However, the disciples from Stormhouse, whose cultivations were low, wouldn't be able to resist this Yin Qi for a long time. If they stayed here for a long time, their world chi would be exhausted and they would freeze to death. In an instant, the entire mountain valley was buried in Yin Qi. Xianing Chong suddenly moved. Her appearance was graceful, like she was dancing. With unknown hand signs, her world chi was divided into many parts and dispersed. Following Xianing Chang's strange movements, the entire valley's dense Yin Qi began to react. If one were to look down at the valley, the scene would be quite similar to that of a pot of boiling water. It was like the Yin Qi was alive, repeatedly rolling around and around, intimidating to the extreme. Not good, Wen Fei Chen shouted. Although he wasn't too sure what Xianing Chong was doing, but as a powerhouse of the true element fifth boundary, he could more or less understand that it wouldn't be good for them. This female probably set up some sort of formation within this valley earlier and was rushing to activate it now. If she truly activated this formation, then this situation might be turned around. Put some effort in. Quickly help me break this light screen. When Fei Chen bellowed out. He wanted to capture Xia Ningchang before she successfully activated that mysterious formation, or there would be no end to this matter. You guys come over too. Otherwise I will kill you right now. When Fei Chen threatened those Stormhouse disciples who were just standing off to the side. Nu Lang and others, how could they dare hesitate? After all, for a battle such as this, they knew their limits and were completely unable to contribute. This had caused them to watch from the sidelines. But once when Fei Chen's order came, they quickly jumped in to assist him. Although their skills were weak, if combined, it could still whittle away at the light screen's defense. The 12 people present all squeezed out all of their power, attacking the barrier with all their might. Although waves rippled across its surface, making it appear like it was about to break, it still held firm. Inside the barrier, Kai Yang's heart palpitated rapidly. He wanted to help, but his cultivation was far too low to do anything. He could only stand next to Xia Ningchang so that if the barrier fell, he could use what little strength he possessed to protect her. Xia Ningchang's hand movements gradually became faster and faster, until after images were formed. This caused the Yin Qi to blow more fiercely and shrilly. It sounded like the howls of wolves and the wailing of ghosts, causing hearts to shudder. While when Fei Chen's face revealed his greed, he had underestimated the grade of the defensive artifact. It should at least be a heaven-grade upper-level defensive artifact, otherwise it wouldn't be able to hold up for such a long period of time without breaking. Heaven-grade upper-level. This thing was able to block attacks from cultivators at the upper boundaries of the Immortal Ascension boundary. So if he possessed this treasure, it would be equivalent to gaining an extra life. After the time it took to burn a stick of incense, a tiny crack appeared on the light barrier. With the appearance of the crack, Xia Ningchang's face also turned white. In order to use this defensive artifact, Xia Ningchang had used up a good portion of her world qi. Furthermore, in order to complete this formation that she was doing, she need to utilize waves of her world qi, further depleting her world qi. Seeing this ray of hope, when Fei Chen urged the others to attack more furiously, while increasing his killing intent. Although it looked ordinary and harmless, he urged his world qi to rise up from his body and push forwards. Throwing a powerful palm strike on the surface, the entire barrier shook, along with Xia Ningchang's petite body. With this strike, her face became even more white. Crack, crack, crack. Finally, cracks had started to streak across the barrier like a spiderweb. Ha ha ha! He laughed out loudly. When Fei Chen had faith that as long as he let out another full-powered strike, he would be able to fully break through. But before he could release this final palm strike, the Yin Qi within the valley suddenly settled down. The howling and wailing that he could hear also disappeared. Xia Ningchang's clear and pure as star eyes glittered, and she called out in her lovable voice, "Seal!" At that moment, Xia Ningchang's preparations were complete. Crash, crash. From the sky, chains suddenly appeared along with the sound of locks locking. Looking up in confusion, they could see 10-foot-long chains that were coarse and black, floating in the sky. These black chains excluded a dense Yin Qi and a chill that froze the heart. These black Yin Qi chains floated around the heads of the Blood Group and Stormhouse. In the next instant, as if they had a mind of their own, they flew towards the people. His face contorting, when Fei Chen knew that he was stepped too late. Hurrying, he hastily sent another palm strike towards the barrier. At the same time, Xia Ningchang's body flashed as she once again activated her defensive artifact. But that palm strike pushed on unobstructed towards Xia Ningchang. At that instant, the vigilant Kai Yang finally found an opportunity to move. Just as the palm was about to arrive, he quickly pulled Xia Ningchang to the side, but he was still a bit too slow, as the palm grazed her body. When that strike grazed her, Xia Ningchang's adorable face shivered. Without any hesitation, Kai Yang pushed her head into his chest and rapidly dashed away with her. The enemy had far too many people and their cultivations were far too high. He wasn't so stupid as to face them head-on. As Kai Yang carried Xianxia away to escape, those Qi chains finally trapped the experts from the blood group. There were 8 of these chains in total. With Wen Fei Chen's special attention to Xianxia, 3 of these chains sped straight towards him. The remaining 5 chains made their way towards the separation and reunion boundary and Qi transforming staged experts of the blood group. Those who were being captured by these chains thought their lives were going to end. But just as they thought this, the 8 chains seemed to disappear into their bodies and out of sight. Wen Fei Chen immediately felt that his true element boundary cultivation had been suppressed. Releasing a groan, he then spat out a mouthful of blood. Those 3 experts at the separation and reunion boundary, as well as the Qi transforming stage disciple, were in the same predicament. Their faces had all turned quite pale and they all vomited out blood. Meanwhile, the remaining Qi transforming disciple directly stopped breathing and fell to the ground dead. "What is happening?" Long Hui shouted out vigorously, for he had watched all that had happened. Just as he realized the opponent possessed a heaven-grade defensive artifact and was thinking about how to defile Xia Ningchang's body, it had all changed. In an instant, someone from his side had died, while 5 were seriously injured. Even when Fei Chun was in a sorry state, how could Long Hui not be angry? The duck that was at his lips suddenly flew away. "Please calm down, young Master Long." Gritting his teeth against the pain, when Fei Chen managed to call out and began to use his world qi to forcibly suppress and expel the chill in his body. His voice extremely weak, he began to explain. "I'm afraid that female had set up some things here beforehand. Borrowing the environment, she was able to activate some mysterious skills and gain the upper hand. Due to a moment of negligence, I allowed her to succeed." "Trash, a group of trash." Long Hui stamped his foot in fury, before continuing loudly. "So many people to deal with, just 2 people, and you still lost." A hint of anger appeared on Wen Fei Chen's face, but he suppressed his anger and said, "Although we suffered a loss, that female definitely isn't in a much better condition. I'm afraid that she doesn't have any more world qi left. So if we are able to find them now, they would be pigs on the chopping board." Itching to get this plan underway, Long Hui ordered, "Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and chase after them." Turning his gaze towards the Storm House disciples, he commanded, "I'll give you a chance to save yourselves. If you are able to capture that female and bring her back to me, then Wen Fei Chen promised to bring you out of here safely." Just then, Xianxia's 8 chains had all targeted powerhouses from the blood group, so it was the Storm House's people that had suffered no major injuries. Of the 5 that had entered the valley, none had died and their conditions were much better than the blood groups. Does Nu Lang have the guts to go against the order of Wen Fei Chen? Despite how miserable the opposite party looked, they truly don't have enough power to cope with them. At this moment Nu Lang asked, "May I confirm with Senior One, if that female really doesn't have the power to hit back?" "Absolutely," Wen Fei Chen answered patiently. "Now go and pursue. Even you can catch her with your hands. Bring her back to Master Long. Doing so can also bring you many advantages." "Okay. Then we can chase." Nu Lang's eyes flashed with wisps of madness and hatred. To reach this day, he had suffered through many bloody battles. Along with the disciples of Stormhouse, many people had died along the way and they had lost all the disciples at the tempered body stage. His anger couldn't be relieved on Wen Fei Chen, so naturally he can only shift it onto Kai Yang and Xianxia. Xianxia doesn't have any strength remaining, and how can that trivial Kai Yang be placed in their eyes? When the people from Stormhouse disappeared into that mountain valley filled with Densin Qi, when Fei Chun looked at the remaining people from the blood group, "You also go, you absolutely can't let that female run away. Behind her there is definitely a powerhouse supporting her. If news of today is revealed, we will have huge trouble." "Yes. Although these people were also frail, when their lives are at stake, they can only give chase." Suddenly, the only remaining people were Long Hui and Wen Fei Chen. Long Hui's expression became a little gentler. He opened his mouth to ask, "Lord One, what happened?" Wen Fei Chen smiled wryly. "I don't know what method that female used, but my strength has been sealed by 3 layers of qi that form a chain in my body, locking my strength and world qi. She has such method unexpectedly? Long Hui looked aghast. When Fei Chen nodded, it is so, those disciples also can't withstand this seal. Now they can only display about 30% of their original strength. Then what should we do? Long Hui asked restlessly. No need to worry. When Fei Chen shook his head. I haven't deceived the Storm House disciples. That female has used such a strong method and also had maintained that defensive treasure for such a long time. Because of that, there isn't a drop of world chi remaining in her dantian, and she has also been hit by me. She doesn't have the slightest fight remaining in her. As long as she is found by them, she should be yours. Hearing this, Long Hui breathed a sigh of relief. Long Hui has got a good impression of Wen Fei Chen since he'd been with him. He personally wanted Lord Wen in his group, so he said, I will definitely tell grandfather about all the pains of Lord Wen this time. Master Long doesn't need to worry. After all, we are family. When Fei Chen smiled satisfied. Now I want to ask Master Long to protect the Buddhist law for me. I want to see if I can break this chain of yin qi. No problem. In their talk, they didn't mention Kai Yang. In their eyes, Xianing Chang is a thorny existence and Kai Yang is a nobody. Xianing Chang was a severely debilitated. As long as she was captured, it was their win. At this moment, Kai Yang had brought Xianing Chang to the edge of the mountain valley and had found a crack in the mountain which was only a few feet high and a few feet deep, which the two of them can easily fit into. Placing Xianing Chang inside it, Kai Yang went out and covered the entrance with loose bush to block it from plain sight. Then Kai Yang had to hold her so tightly that it felt like they had melted into one person. Do not speak. Some people are pursuing, Kai Yang said softly as he hugged Xianing Chang. Xianing Chang looked pale. She concentrated on holding her breath and making no sound. After a little while, Nu Lang and his people flashed past the entrance. The sound of footsteps gradually went further and further away. Both sides had been separated by a distance of only a few feet. But on this night, this valley was filled with dense yin qi, letting Kai Yang and Xianing Chang hide perfectly without being detected. After Nu Lang and his group went far away, Xianing Chang was finally unable to bear it any longer and spurted out blood. The silk on her mask immediately turned a dark red color. When Fei Chen's attack a moment ago had injured her. Are you all right? Kai Yang asked anxiously. Help me take the compounding drug. Xianing Chang's voice sounded weak. Her body collapsed softly onto the ground. She didn't even have enough strength to move her finger. Where is the drug? In my bosom. Kai Yang hastily put his hand in her bosom to search. In the next moment, he is struck by lightning and looks at his little senior sister. Xianing Chang is also looking at him. On her pale complexion appears a hint of a blush. Her body shivers slightly. Just when Kai Yang was searching around her jade-like front, she felt like lighting was passing through her body, paralyzing her. She nearly fainted on the scene. Please hold on. Kai Yang knew that this was not the moment to be sentimental. He whispered this to Xianing Chang, and his hand once again began to search in her cloths to try and find the compounding drug. Xianing Chang was only wearing outer women's clothing, inside of which is only her skin. Kai Yang's hands tracing this felt like they had entered her immortal place, one which makes humans forget to return. One pair of full, soft bulges which have an astonishing elasticity. They are neither small nor big. His palm can encompass them perfectly. His 5 fingers move over her bulges for a while. Every time there is a movement, the energy from the movement makes her body tremble. Feeling each other's body, just after a few moments, both Kai Yang and Xianing Chang's breathing becomes rapid and the blood starts to flow faster. Kai Yang is still okay, although this matter is somewhat awkward. He is a man with a thick skin and doesn't consider this a serious matter. On the contrary, Xianing Chang's limp eyes contained a trace of youthful love. Although her eyes also have traces of shame and anger, the fragrance of her breath has the power to even attract the spirit of a person with an unspeakable innocence. Don't think anything. On the other hand, Kai Yang's hands are comfortably fumbling inside her clothes. Xianing Chang finally couldn't bear it and said in a weak voice, on the other side. Oh! Kai Yang finally recovered, searching in her secret passage for such a long time and could not find it because originally it was not there. This thing is troublesome. His other hand searches the other side and goes deeper inside. Eventually he found several bottles. In the meantime, he had been shaken several times by Xianing Chang. Which one is needed? Kaiyang asked. The middle bottle. Xianing Chong replied weakly, secretly looking at him. Kaiyang hurriedly took out the middle bottle, pouring some compounding drugs from this bottle. He lifted her face, then forcefully placed the drug in her mouth. His little senior sister has a special physique. She has a medicine spirit body, which is the best in this world, best body for the consumption of medicine. They can eat as many medicines as they like without any side effects. Several compounding drugs enter her abdomen while she sits in a meditative position. Meanwhile, Kaiyang turned around and remained alert for any traces of sound outside. After about half an hour, Xianing Chong gradually recovered. Opening her eyes, her face is covered by a shy blush. She was looking towards Kaiyang with mixed feelings. After thinking about what happened a moment ago, her cheeks became hot. Although she knows that at that time there were no alternatives, Xianing Chong still felt like digging a hole or crawling into it. As if feeling the gaze of Xianing Chong, Kaiyang, who was on lookout, turned his head. Seeing Xianing Chong had finished her restoration, he couldn't help but ask, "Are you all right?" Xianing Chang's eyes flashed with panic. She quickly turned her head before replying, "Although there is no danger to my life, I will not be able to fight, at least for now." "That's all right." The knot in Kaiyang's heart finally loosened. She didn't dare to think too deeply about that disgraceful matter, so she turned her head around and asked instead, "How did you find this hiding place? You could say that this place was simply an ideal position. So how had this junior brother found this place in the dark?" Kaiyang replied while grinning, "When you previously left me alone, I searched the nearby area and accidentally found this place. Back then, I hadn't thought this place would turn out to be a lifesaver. This is truly too lucky," Xianing Chong said while sighing. "You should have a good rest. As soon as things calm down, I will take you out of here." Xianing Chong looked gloomy as he said this. She shook her head and slowly said, "We can't leave this place. Doesn't everything depend on one's skills and effort? So how are we unable to leave here?" Kaiyang chuckled. "Since I unsealed the 9-cloud 8 locks, this entire mountain valley has been sealed off. Before dawn, no one will be able to escape from here." Kaiyang froze, realizing the meaning of her words. "When you left me, it was to prepare this formation?" Xianing Chong nodded slightly. "I wanted to use this formation to deal with the 9 Indu crystals, but I was forced to activate it before the scheduled time." "Were those black chains the result of the formation?" Kaiyang asked as he recalled the scene that had occurred moments ago. "Yes. They wouldn't have been killed by it already, would they?" Kaiyang questioned hopefully. "If all of those powerhouse died, then they could certainly escape this time." Xianing Chong shook her head. "No, this formation is unable to kill them. Those people are no weaklings. This formation will only be able to eliminate 1 or 2 of them, those with the lowest strength among them at most." "That's not too bad either." Kaiyang secretly thought to himself that it was a pity. It's just, although it is unable to kill them, with all the yin qi from the chains invading their body, most of their strength will be sealed. And before dawn, they will be unable to unseal themselves and restore their strength. I also think that before dawn, I will be able to recover some of my qi. Then we will be able to escape together." Suddenly Kaiyang's eyes were filled with aggressiveness. He looked at Xianing Chong and asked in an excited voice, "You said their cultivations were sealed. How much of their power was sealed?" Xianing Chong thought for a moment. "At least 60 to 70%. For that powerhouse at the true elemental boundary, it should be around 80%. So that means they won't be able to display their destructive might." Kaiyang looked excited and was filled with an urge to test himself and his limits. Xianing Chong looked at him nervously. "What are you thinking about? Even if their strength has been sealed, you won't be able to deal with them. So junior brother, please do not act rashly." She had seen through what Kaiyang was thinking. Kaiyang chuckled, his eyes hiding a hint of mischief. He replied, "How will we know if we don't try? Don't forget, this is the place where the 9 Indu crystals gather. Not only are their cultivations sealed, but in order to resist the invasion of yin qi, they will need to use world qi. So as time passes, they will gradually become weaker and weaker. But there are so many of them. Xianxia grabbed Kai Yang's hand and shook her head repeatedly. Don't be hasty. Kai Yang patted her hands gently. Relax, I have confidence. If we continue to hide here, sooner or later we will be discovered. At that time, we will become turtles that have been flipped onto their backs, who can only wait for death. If we take the initiative and attack, then perhaps we will have a small chance. No way. Xianxia shook her head like a rattledrum. I am your senior sister, so you must listen to me. If you go out now, you won't have any way to resist. The yin qi in the valley will be enough to consume your world qi. Little senior sister, if you want to live, then please don't stop me. You also saw that Long Hui's mentality, and you should know what fate lies in store for you if you fall into his hands. Xianxia's body trembled fiercely. Since this is the case, do not block me. Kai Yang shook off Xianxia's hand. If you are this insistent on going out, then at least take this treasure with you. Xianxia said helplessly. If Kai Yang wanted to leave, she wouldn't be able to stop him with her present strength. She could only hand over the jade pendant. You need this more than me, Kai Yang said, rejecting her flatly. You shouldn't be worried about me. Although I am only at the initial element 4th stage, I still possess a method to restore my world qi, and the yin qi in this mountain valley cannot affect me. On the contrary, if someone was able to find this place, would you be able to fend them off? I have already restored some of my world qi, so I will be able to activate the defensive artifact again. Furthermore, with their true strength already suppressed, they won't able to threaten me. Xianxia said. That's a relief. Kai Yang slowly walked towards the exit. Restraining himself for so long, he was finally going to be able to get some action going. Kai Yang looked quite ferocious. After walking a few steps, Kai Yang suddenly stopped, then whispered, Little senior sister, if by dawn I don't come back, then return to Sky Tower as soon as possible. Xianxia's heart clenched. An indescribable pain spread throughout her heart. Kai Yang smiled at her and reassured her. If I come back, will you promise me one thing? Promise you what? Xianxia asked, enduring the pain in her heart. When I come back, I will tell you it. Kai Yang said, chuckling. Exiting the cave sideways, he descended towards the bottom of mountain. Coming out, he covered the crevice behind him. After checking that everything had been covered properly, he disappeared into darkness, leaving behind Xianxia alone in that desolate cave. There were still 3 or 4 hours remaining until dawn would arrive, while there were a lot of enemies for him to take care of in this time. This sure would be a difficult fight. In the forest, some people were moving about at high speeds. Listening to the sound of the footsteps, it sounded like there was 2 people. Kai Yang hid behind a big tree, calmly waiting for them to draw closer. He had no idea which group that pair belonged to nor their cultivation levels. So for the time being, he could only observe them and then plan accordingly. If the 2 of them were strong, he could only avoid them and wait for the first sign of weakness. As the sound of the footsteps got closer, someone spoke up. Senior brother Xiong, where did they go? We have looked for them for so long yet are still unable to find them. Another voice replied, Junior brother, you should not be worried. Senior brother Nu and those brutes from the blood group are also searching, so Kai Yang will not be able to hide for long. We are only putting on a front, and perhaps right as we speak they have already found Kai Yang and that female. The disciple nodded. It's just a pity. That girl really is a beauty. Falling into the hands of Long Hui, I don't want to imagine how she will be played with. Brother Xiong sneered. Long Hui is a sex maniac and doomed to not have any great achievements. In the future, when we become stronger, we will have our good times. While he was speaking, a figure had suddenly appeared a few feet in front of the Stormhouse disciples. Stopping suddenly, Senior Brother Xiong shouted, Who's there? A light chuckle could be heard from the side. Aren't you looking for me? Kai Yang. Brother Xiong became overjoyed. For in such a hopeless situation, bumping into Kai Yang without even setting a trap sure was lucky. Now they wouldn't have to waste any effort attempting to draw him out. Brother Xiong became excited. Kai Yang was also happy. From their conversation earlier, Kai Yang knew of their statuses. The Stormhouse group consisted of 5 people. Except for Nu Lang, who was at the Qi transforming first stage, the remaining 4 disciples were all at the initial element stages. Cultivators of this level, Kai Yang didn't fear at all. These 2 disciples from Stormhouse had no enmity or grudges with Kai Yang. However, during their pursuit of him, many of their brothers had died. They did not have enough power to turn against Wen Fei Chun for revenge, so they could only hold Kai Yang responsible for deaths of their brothers. At that moment, personally meeting the enemy, naturally they would be infuriated. Brother Xiong smiled while sizing up Kai Yang before coldly saying, "Courageous. He unexpectedly dares to challenge us. Where is the female disciple you saved? If you can defeat me, I will tell you." Kai Yang's knuckles made cracking noises as he formed them into fists. Shaking his head, he slowly walked towards the 2. Brother Xiong laughed. "Acting recklessly, junior brother helped me to pick up the goods after I have taught him a lesson." While speaking, he drew out the long sword hanging from his waist from its sheath, then took a stance before attacking Kai Yang. Brother Xiong was an initial element boundary 6th level practitioner. With Kai Yang's initial element boundary 4th level cultivation, they had a difference of 2 levels. In his hand was also a sharp weapon which further increased his advantage. The move he executed was only for probing. Brother Xiong did not believe he would be able to get rid of Kai Yang with this move. In the darkness, the sword flashed before Kai Yang. Kai Yang quickly moved sideways to dodge. Following this, Brother Xiong raised his sword again and attacked Kai Yang several times in succession. Kai Yang dodged all of his attacks. After this exchange, they both stepped back from each other. Brother Xiong laughed. "A rice grain dares to dream of glory. Kai Yang, your life is mine to take. Come." The previous attacks had given him a clear understanding of Kai Yang's strength. Now that he had a basic idea about how Kai Yang fought, he could easily kill him. Activating his world Qi, wind and lightning sounds came from Senior Brother Xiong's blade. Thunder, wind, cry. Brother Xiong swung his sword heavily. On his long sword there was lighting visible, which in turn produced an arc of lightning as he swung his sword. This arc was incomparably sharp and was moving towards Kai Yang's chest at great speed. Kai Yang was left unable to dodge this attack. Kai Yang really was unable to dodge this attack, but on his face there was no trace of panic. Instead, he simply raised his palm towards the blade. Brother Xiong sneered. In his heart, he was thinking, the body of this sword is covered in lightning, and you are merely an initial element boundary 4th level. If it touches you, then you will be paralyzed and will be at my mercy. Thinking this, Brother Xiong increased the speed at which the blade was approaching Kai Yang. Kai Yang made a low sound. His palm became incomparably red, just like a burning flame. Brother Xiong felt a heat wave coming towards him, which not only removed the cold from the surrounding area, but also made him feel like he was crashing into a sea of fire. This made him feel like he was actually on fire. Clang! A metallic sound could be heard. Kai Yang's palm was on top of the sword. Whenever his palm came into contact with lightning, the lightning would just suddenly vanish. Due to this sudden collision, the long sword was also diverted from its original path. Instead, it ended up merely scratching Kai Yang's shoulder without injuring him. Brother Xiong became startled. In this confrontation, he had found that his world Qi was simply not a match for his opponents. Could it be that he was not an initial element 4th level practitioner after all? Could his world Qi actually be more concentrated than his own? Moreover, the world Qi contained in Kai Yang's palm a moment ago was truly too pure. Otherwise, it would be impossible for it to extinguish the lightning on his sword. Brother Xiong became uneasy as he thought of these things. Retrieving his sword, he hurriedly retreated away from Kai Yang. He was preparing to stabilize his Qi before trying again. But was Kai Yang going to give him this chance? While retreating, Brother Xiong became unbalanced. In his gaze, there was now a trace of fear. He felt a fist impact against his stomach. Then blood spurted out from his mouth. Kai Yang knew that he needed to deal with a lot of enemies, so he was in a hurry to deal with these 2. He didn't even hesitate to consume a drop of Yang liquid, using it in his strike to kill his opponent as soon as possible. Brother Xiong's body stopped moving and became motionless. The only remaining sound was the howling of the Yin Qi throughout the mountain valley, which also created an eerie atmosphere. The younger disciple from Stormhouse didn't understand what had occurred, and after a short while he called out in a soft voice, "Xiong, elder brother." "Bro? Brother Xiong." Before his voice had fallen, Brother Xiong's body fell to the ground. Kai Yang grinned suddenly. Straightening his body, he said, Your elder brother Xiong just set foot on the road to the Yellow Springs and will be waiting for you. The younger disciple stared dumbfounded at Kai Yang before making a strange cry and attempting to run for it. His strength was inferior to brother Xiong. He was only at the initial element boundary 5th level. Kai Yang had killed elder brother Xiong in one move. How could he have enough strength to cope with him? Running away? Kai Yang sneered. In his hand he was holding Xiong's long sword while he pursued. It could be said that the Yin Qi in the mountain valley was helping Kai Yang. Everyone was suffering under the corrosive effect of the Yin Qi and their strength was reduced. Only Kai Yang, who had practiced the true Yang tactics, which was a natural counter to Yin Qi, simply didn't need to worry about it affecting him. He just needed to consume a little of his Yang Qi to scatter the chill in his surroundings. Although the young disciple from Stormhouse was an initial element boundary 5th level practitioner, in this mountain valley the strength he could wield was comparatively lower. After pursuing him for a short while, the distance between Kai Yang and him was reduced greatly. Now he was merely 10 feet away. This distance was close enough. Kai Yang threw the long sword while he was running. The sound of the wind being cut could be heard. The young disciple initiated a movement martial art with the intent of dodging. But without enough time to complete his skill, the distance of 10 feet had become 0. Seeing no way to escape, the Stormhouse disciple became decisive. Turning around quickly, he took out his own weapon, but he only saw a streak of bright red light coming his way. Almost by instinct he crossed his long sword over his body to block the attack. Bang! Bang! The bright red weapon cut through his sword like a knife cutting through tofu. His weapon was instantly cut in half. In the next moment he felt his neck becoming hot, however was no longer able to distinguish between the different directions and fell down. Kai Yang stopped. In his fingers he was holding a bright red long sword, which was dripping blood. The disciple from Stormhouse rolled over. He was staring up at Kai Yang. He was not even able to make a single sound. After a moment his head suddenly burst open, and it looked like bloody rain was falling from the sky. They were both dead. He had won this battle easily. He didn't even need to use the golden skeleton and was still able to deal with them. In previous fights Kai Yang always needed to rely on that mysterious skill every time he fought with an enemy. But this time he discovered that even without using that mysterious skill, he was able to fight with people at higher levels of cultivation than him. Kai Yang thought that it was necessary to re-examine his strength. Kai Yang was about to leave the scene. However, from both sides of his current location, he could hear the sound of clothes flapping due to the wind. From left it sounded like 2 people were coming, while from right it only sounded like there was 1 person. It should be the strange-sounding cry made by the young disciple which had attracted them. Kai Yang wanted to hide, but after thinking carefully for a moment, he rapidly closed in on the sound coming from his left side instead. It was he had thought. These were the remaining 3 disciples from Stormhouse. They had thought that looking separately would be more effective, so they had separated from each other but still didn't go too far from each other. Now the remaining 3 were all coming. It was naturally what he had wished for. The strength of the Stormhouse disciples was much lower than the strength of those from the blood group. It was only that between these 3 people only Nu Lang was at the Qi transforming first stage. So if he wanted to take them down it would a bit more troublesome. So that's why Kai Yang needed to first deal with the other 2 Stormhouse disciples that were only at the initial element stage, before he could put all his heart into fighting Nu Lang. Looking at himself, Kai Yang wondered if he could fight against a Qi transforming practitioner. Thinking about this, Kai Yang's blood began to boil in anticipation. What Kai Yang had predicted was on point. The 2 disciples that had come from the left truly were Stormhouse disciples. Their cultivations were also at around the same level as the other 2 whom he had killed. Even if they could be considered strong, they weren't especially strong. Hearing the cries of their junior brothers, they had rushed in the direction from which they had heard them. However, before the 2 could even arrive at the location of the sound, someone had already been sent flying away. Who? Stopping in their tracks, the 2 Stormhouse disciples became alert. Not replying, Kai Yang instead quickened his pace and threw himself onto them. Sensing Kai Yang's killing intent and hostility, how could those 2 be unable to react? They immediately cried out, "It's Kai Yang!" Just as they finished speaking, their weapons appeared in their hands. One from the right, one from the left, they jumped towards Kai Yang. With Kai Yang's battle spirit aroused, He met their attacks without the slightest bit of fear. Fast as lightning, the blood-red blade once again appeared within his hands and he targeted one of the attackers. The disciple who was being attacked raised their blade to block the incoming strike. But how could his ordinary grade weapon possibly compare to a drop of yang qi? As the two blades met, the Stormhouse disciple's blade broke in two. Thankfully, his reactions were fast enough for him to hurriedly dodge that life-threatening strike as it skimmed the side of his rib. Shing! The sound of the blade skimming his rib rang out. The disciple in question cried out in agony, feeling as if a flaming piece of metal was branding him. Immediately, the taste of burnt flesh could be sensed in the air. Senior brother. The other person's complexion changed greatly as he quickly withdrew his previous attack. In this life-or-death situation, he reevaluated himself and realized he had put himself right under Kai Yang's blade. How could Kai Yang be merciful with regards to them? Right after the breaking of the blade, Kai Yang sent a palm strike towards the Stormhouse disciple's solar plexus, causing fiery hot world qi to enter his body. Once the world qi entered his body, that person's eyes bulged out as he flew backwards. Landing on the ground, he jerked a few times before ceasing all movement. In an instant he had killed another Stormhouse disciple, and that death was far faster than the one suffered by his preceding senior brother. Before Kai Yang could initiate another strike, the other Stormhouse disciple who was still alive swung his blade. Unable to dodge, Kai Yang tensed all his muscles in preparation of receiving the strike. Shwa! As the blade glinted with light, it cut open his abdomen area. Immediately pain flared throughout his body originating from that wound, and blood spewed out. But Kai Yang still remained unmoved. He only became more vicious and bloodthirsty as he turned his head towards that disciple. That person had personally seen his junior brother killed right in front of his eyes. So how could he think about anything else? He had only harbored thoughts about killing Kai Yang right that instant, in order to avenge his junior brother's death. Right after his first slice, he raised his sword again and this time he aimed straight for Kai Yang's throat. Kai Yang only raised his arm to block the incoming strike. The blade caused an inch-long wound to appear on his arm, only to be stopped by his bone, unable to penetrate further down. Hee. As the blood dripped down, Kai Yang only sardonically laughed. Within the darkness, a set of ivory-white teeth appeared. They were like the teeth of a night predator. The current Kai Yang, from head to toe, emitted a demonic aura. Kai Yang was vicious, excited and emitting a demonic aura. That smile alone would make anyone who saw it tremble with fear. How could that still living Stormhouse disciple have ever had the opportunity to see someone like him before? After receiving 2 wounds, he could still smile. Was this person a madman? His mind a mess, he only wanted to retreat. In this death match, to be intimidated by the opponent's aura alone, how could he possibly hope to survive? Kai Yang's leg immediately flew out, aiming for his crotch. The sound of something breaking rang out. That person immediately arched his back and fell to his knees, his face deathly pale. Swiftly, Kai Yang extracted the sword embedded within his arm and swung it down to finish the job. He had killed 2 more. Shwa! It wasn't until then that the person hurrying over from the right side finally arrived at the scene. It was Nu Lang. The 5 disciple from Stormhouse had split into 3 groups and had been searching in the vicinity for Kai Yang and Xianing Chang's footprints. Unexpectedly, they were finished off one by Kai Yang. His gaze sweeping the scene, Nu Lang saw his 2 junior brothers lying dead on the ground. In an instant, he turned around and said in a very furious tone, "Was it you who killed them?" Kai Yang turned his head. Within that insane gaze of his was a calm and collected coldness. "It looks like everyone had underestimated you. You actually possessed such abilities." His expression hazy, Nu Lang forcibly suppressed his inner rage. Taking a deep breath, he continued solemnly, "I have something to ask you." "No need to ask. Nu Tao and Cheng Xiaofeng were killed by me." "You guessed correctly. It really was you." Nu Lang's body suddenly began to shake. He had always held the hope that his younger brother had lost himself while playing around. Although the chances of that actually happening were very low, it was still a hope he had clung onto. But now, that sliver of hope had been shattered by Kai Yang. He had personally admitted that his younger brother's disappearance was related to him and that he had actually killed him. They wanted to kill me, so naturally I also had the right to kill them. Kai Yang seemed a bit impatient. Let's not talk any more nonsense. Let's battle. Good. 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 Nu Lang's killing intent was seething as he told Kai Yang in a voice dripping with poison. Since you dared to act and dared to admit it, then I shall not say any more. Today, I shall use your life as a sacrifice for those who died. Between words, Nu Lang readied himself and rushed forward. His body flickering, he arrived in front of Kai Yang in an instant. His hand curled like an eagle's claw. He slashed horizontally at Kai Yang's throat. Kai Yang's expression hardened. A Qi transforming stage practitioner's power was truly incomparable to one at the initial element stage. Their power really couldn't be compared. Hurriedly, Kai Yang leaned backwards and used his hands to cover his throat, the vital area. Nu Lang only smiled out coldly, and his 5 fingers actually changed directions midway, directly aiming downwards. Whoosh! Kai Yang took a few steps backwards. Looking down, he saw his clothes ripped and 5, bloody, claw-like marks across his stomach. Accompanying the marks, he felt a strange energy enter him. Activating his true Yang tactics, he immediately dissolved that strange energy. A mere initial element 4th stage practitioner actually dares to act presumptuous in front of me. I won't kill you quickly, but instead torment you to the point that you wish you could die but can't. With his successful strike, Nu Lang's expression became more and more sinister. A flowery strike and fancy footwork. You fight like a girl. Aren't you ashamed? Kai Yang immediately tore off his ragged clothing, revealing his skinny and shriveled body, coldly mocking him. Nu Lang's face reddened, but he couldn't retort. Who told him to train in the claw arts? This truly wasn't an elegant art. A tongue as sharp as ivory. I hope that later you won't beg for mercy. Nu Lang didn't want to battle with words. Moving both his hands, they took on the shape of a hawk's claws, and once again he began to attack Kai Yang. How about you taste the might of my fists too? Laughing loudly, Kai Yang rushed forward to meet those 2 claws head-on. You overestimate yourself. Nu Lang laughed coldly. With his cultivation at the Qi transforming stage, even if it was a boulder, he could still claw through it. So how could he not do the same to someone at the initial element 4th stage? In the space between them, their hands became locked together. Kai Yang's fist had violently attacked Nu Lang's hands, but they had both caught each other's attack and interlocked fingers to prevent the other from retreating. At this moment, world Qi from both of them simultaneously burst out, fiercely colliding within their palms. What? Nu Lang was astonished. He discovered that Kai Yang's world Qi was more overbearing than his own, and he wasn't able to resist it for a long time. How is this possible? The difference between their strength was so large, it was impossible for Kai Yang to be a threat to him. But looking at the facts in front of him, it looked like he couldn't afford to be careless. If he refused to back down now, perhaps his fingers would be burnt to a crisp. Thinking about this, Nu Lang hurriedly withdrew, jumping back several feet. While he was withdrawing, he hastily dissolved the Kai Yang's burning hot world Qi which was invading his body. Looking at Kai Yang, Nu Lang became even more surprised because his move had failed to break even one of Kai Yang's fingers. Although Kai Yang's fingers had holes in them, it hadn't gone as planned. With the grasp a moment ago, he should have been able to crumble Kai Yang's fist. This boy really has some methods. No wonder my brothers were all killed by him. Looks like it wasn't just luck after all. Nu Lang was forced to become serious. Kai Yang shook his fist, after looking down at his hands. When he lifted his head, his eyes contained even more excitement and anticipation. The uncertainty as to the outcome of this battle had made his blood boil with excitement, feeling the pain from his wound, feeling the pressure from the enemy. All of this had made Kai Yang's indomitable will to awaken, the unyielding will to win and determination to rise. Only this would lead to the awakening of his mysterious martial arts. Finally, the moment had come. Kai Yang didn't need to suppress his strength anymore. From deep within his bones, a boiling hot strength flowed into Kai Yang. With this power, Kai Yang felt like a whole new person. Previously, he had always accidentally triggered his indomitable will. During those times, he would become a little perplexed because even though he would win, he didn't understand the reason for his win. It would also leave any nearby people bewildered. But this time it was different. He could feel a huge quantity of energy pouring out from his bones into his meridians, nourishing his flesh and blood, promoting his strength crazily. Come again! Kai Yang was like an apex predator in the jungle. His eyes were staring at Nu Lang stubbornly. Kai Yang shot forward like a bullet while punching out. It was a basic punch just like the one moments ago. Courting death. Nu Lang sneered, although he was surprised by Kai Yang's world chi. Based on Kai Yang's strength, he wouldn't be able to hurt him. As long as he is able to receive his fist and dissolve his world chi, it would be impossible for him to get injured. Kai Yang will once again be injured by me, just like a moment ago, only this time his whole fist will be crushed. Could be said that Kai Yang had chosen quite the rash method. Nu Lang looked confident in his ability to win this exchange. Sneering, Nu Lang caught Kai Yang's fist just like the previous time. In the second confrontation, Nu Lang felt that something was not quite right, because the might of Kai Yang's fist had become greater than the punch a moment ago. The world chi it contained had also become fiercer than before. Kai Yang's strength suddenly reached the initial element 5th level. But how was this possible? Be it practitioners at the initial element 4th level or 5th level, in his eyes they were like commoners, they couldn't threaten him, rather they can simply be killed with little effort. In this confrontation, the injury on Kai Yang's hand was becoming more serious. Blood dripped and Kai Yang moved back. Nu Lang was in hot pursuit. His fingers were cutting through the air with a howling sound. In the darkness, Nu Lang was attacking Kai Yang repeatedly. Kai Yang was silently dodging Nu Lang's attacks. While Nu Lang was attacking, Kai Yang was countering with his fists, left fist then right fist in a rhythmic manner. Although the injuries on his hands were not light, he was still able to block all of Nu Lang's attacks. He couldn't let Nu Lang have a chance to take his life. Dull thumping sounds rang out in the dark night one after another. With each sound, Kai Yang's body would fall back several steps. The injury on his hand was becoming more and more serious. But his eyes didn't show the slightest hint of panic, but rather carried a determination. A will to win this fight had been born in his heart. He was simply waiting for the right moment to attack. How is this even possible? Nu Lang had become completely shocked. However, at present it seemed like Nu Lang had the upper hand. After all, he was an entire boundary higher when compared to Kai Yang. If he was still unable to gain the upper hand, then he had practiced these many years in vain. Nu Lang swallowed his spit. His 10 fingers had been burnt by Kai Yang's hot world chi. Each of his fingers had been covered in blisters. His fingers felt like they were constantly on fire. Since one's fingers are connected to one's heart, moving his fingers made his heart become cold due to the pain. If it was only this much, then Nu Lang wouldn't be shocked. What truly shocked him was the strength of Kai Yang. In their first confrontation, Kai Yang was merely a trivial initial element 4th level practitioner. Such a level wasn't sufficient to make him fear. But during their second confrontation, he had achieved initial element 5th level. In the 4th clash, his strength had increased yet again. He had reached the initial element 6th level. The 7th clash, he reached the initial element 7th level. In the 12th clash, he reached the initial element 8th level. As he continues to fight, his strength continues to increase, which is a very sly, unique, and unimaginable thing. Moreover, this rise in strength was showing no signs of stopping. Nu Lang had become dismayed. He didn't know that Kai Yang could increase his strength, nor to what degree he could. If he continued and reached the chi transforming stage, he couldn't hope to win, because the world chi of Kai Yang was too overbearing. After a joss-stick time had passed, Nu Lang had realized he was unable to directly confront Kai Yang. Nu Lang was not a dull-witted person. With each confrontation, Kai Yang's body was becoming steadier. He was now as steady as a rock, standing in same place motionless. On the contrary, after each strike, Nu Lang was suffering greater and greater amounts of backlash. Nu Lang could only use his agility and his flexible style to look for a weakness in Kai Yang, attempting to strike Kai Yang a fatal blow. But the defense of Kai Yang was simply overbearing, so much so that no weakness could be found. Initial element 9th level. Nu Lang's eyes trembled. He discovered that along with each confrontation, Kai Yang's strength really did climb to another level. It had climbed directly to the peak of the initial element boundary. But with this his world chi finally calmed down. It no longer continued to increase. With this, Nu Lang could finally let out a sigh of relief. Although he was only at the chi transforming stage 1st level, which was just one level higher compared to the initial element peak, this small gap of just one level represented a large gap in terms of strength. Therefore, Nu Lang had confidence in being able to strike a fatal blow against Kai Yang. He increased his strength by eating a compounding drug, which one he didn't know. But no matter which compounding drug he ate, there certainly would be consequences. Kai Yang was originally at the initial element stage 4th level, thus, his current storage capacity of world chi was still limited to this. He was unable to store the same quantity of world chi as someone truly of the initial element peak level. Nu Lang just needed to wait for Kai Yang's strength to be used up, and then he would be able to strike a fatal blow. Just as Nu Lang formed his plan, Kai Yang suddenly stopped all movement as he furrowed his brows. He appeared as if he was deep in thought. The next moment, a roar rang out, and from within the darkness, a fiery hot brilliance burst out. This scared Nu Lang and he became confused. Looking at Kai Yang, he saw that his upper body was cloaked in raging light in the form of flames. They weren't true flames, but rather what Yang Qi looked like when it had reached a certain degree of concentration. Flaming hot world Qi burned around Kai Yang, sending waves of heat out into the mountain valley. The Yin Qi reacted like it had met its worst nightmare, as it could no longer condense around the area affected by the Yang Qi. Due to the light of the flaming world Qi, Kai Yang's bare upper body became unclear. It was purifying and binding his muscles, appearing unrestrained as it spread all over. Both his fists were bloody and mutilated. He had a 30-centimeter long gash on his abdomen, which was still bleeding. His battered body was terrorizing to look at. Both his eyes had also turned scarlet. He appeared akin to a beast emitting an aura with an endless amount of bloodthirst and insanity. Truly a demonic aura. Nu Lang's face dropped as he hurriedly took a few steps backwards and shouted out, "Berserk magic?" He thought that during the battle, Kai Yang had lost control of his world chi and had allowed his world chi to control his mind. But shouldn't this situation only occur when a practitioner reached the chi transforming stage? He was merely an initial element staged practitioner, so how could this possibly occur to him? Berserk magic? Tilting his head, Kai Yang looked over questioningly. Although his eyes showed traces of rage, he still kept a cold and indifferent expression, like he hadn't been poisoned by some berserk magic at all. Your gaze is far too short-sighted. Finishing his statement, the world chi all over his body receded. There was no longer the overpowering brilliance being emitted by the flames. They shrunk back until they only covered his two fists, coating them with a layer of flaming yang world chi. From the appearance, it looked as if those two fists were clasping onto two small flaming fires. Although the flames were wavering, they persisted to burn with an unmatched intensity. You are still conscious? Bewildered, Nu Lang looked towards Kai Yang as he searched for a sliver of humanity within his eyes. But he was disappointed, because within those two scarlet eyes, he couldn't find any trace of humanity nor human emotions. Only a crazy bloodthirst and a burning battle hunger lay within. This shouldn't be. After all, those were the symptoms of berserk magic. Within his eyes, no trace of humanity was left. So why was it that he could still think? You say I'm not. Taking another step forwards, Kai Yang shortened the distance between them. This step caused the distance between them to close extremely fast. This caused Nu Lang to turn pale with fright, because Kai Yang's speed had already reached a frightening degree. Hastily he stepped back while lashing out with his claw-shaped hands in a desperate attempt to stop Kai Yang's advance. Kai Yang's burning fists rushed out to meet that claw attack head-on. Amidst the whistling sound of his strike, he smashed into Nu Lang's 5 fingers. Ka-cha! A crisp breaking sound could be heard, followed by a blood-curdling scream emanating from Nu Lang. Following that, his entire body flew backwards and, when he landed on the ground, 5 throbs of pain could be felt from his hand. As far as Nu Lang could tell, his 5 fingers were badly twisted and no longer usable. There were burns all over his hand and all of his bones were broken. Not only that, there was also a very violent, overbearing and searing hot world chi invading his body, burning through his meridians and bloodstream. Nu Lang didn't dare to dally, and quickly used his other hand to stop the invasion of that world chi in his disabled arm. Just as he finished doing this, a glimmer of light flashed past his eyes. Looking up, he saw that Kai Yang had once again arrived at his side and that those fists of his were burning brighter. How could Nu Lang dare to continue fighting? It was only now that Nu Lang realized that even with his newly acquired cultivation at the chi transforming first stage, he was actually unable to defeat Kai Yang, who was at the initial element third stage. Using all of his power, Nu Lang hurriedly retreated backwards and simultaneously whistled. Within that whistle, his fear and horror could be heard as his whistle echoed throughout the valley. A brilliant glow appeared at Kai Yang's feet, propelling him at an even greater speed than even before. It was so quick that he shocked even himself. Catching up, he viciously punched towards Nu Lang's retreating back. Pong, pong, pong. Taking the blows, there was no way Nu Lang could resist as his entire being was beaten until he was muddle-headed. After 50 paces or so, Nu Lang realized that he couldn't shake off Kai Yang, and in an instant his blood boiled. Stopping suddenly, his expression became fierce as he shouted out, "Kai Yang, don't you dare go to bully others. Eagle soars in the sky. Kill for me." This was Nu Lang's most powerful class skill. As all of his world chi condensed on his hands, his 2 hands crisscrossed in front of his body, protecting his chest. Then as Kai Yang drew near, they simultaneously shot out, tearing out at him from both sides. All of his chi transforming first stage strength shot out. This was an attack that even Kai Yang did not dare to overlook. Kai Yang's face changed, as he could feel the great amount of killing power that lay in those hands. If he was captured by those claws, Kai Yang was afraid this chest would be ripped to shreds. In the midst of this, Kai Yang instinctively leaned to the side and bravely lashed out with his flaming fists at Nu Lang's face. Both people were putting their lives on the line, and it was certain that this would be their final exchange. On the battlefield there was only life or death. One would fight desperately to survive. It was either I die or I win. Pong! Kai Yang's fist collided with Nu Lang's face, and his 5 sense organs immediately distorted. Due to the sheer force of Kai Yang's fists, Nu Lang's entire being flew backwards, flipping in the air a few times before landing on the ground with a loud thud. Shwa! Nu Lang's claw attack had also landed on Kai Yang's body, but contrary to what he had expected, it merely left 10 bloody traces. 5 were shallow, while 5 were deep. At the crucial moment, Kai Yang's decision to lean to the side had saved him. One of Nu Lang's hands had already been smashed and broken earlier, so his eagle soars in the sky couldn't exhibit his true might, and the power in both hands wasn't the same. With the differences in power, Kai Yang's lean caused both the claws to be unable to land at the same time. This was equivalent to breaking through Nu Lang's attack. This type of battle choice was fully dependent on one's quick-wittedness and instinct. In the heat of battle, Kai Yang didn't think too much. Needless to say, this type of skill-breaking method really was flawless. While the surroundings quickly settled down, the outcome of this duel had finally become clear. Panting lightly, Kai Yang's body was still surrounded by that evil aura. Meanwhile, Nu Lang was like a dead dog, sprawled on the ground. Blood covered his face, and he directed a poisonous stare at Kai Yang, who was advancing step by step towards him. "Even if I become a ghost, I won't let you off," Nu Lang said hatefully as he swallowed a mouthful of blood. Looking down at him, Kai Yang lifted up a foot and suddenly stomped down. "Ha ha! The blood group's people will hear my call. They will come to kill." Before Nu Lang could complete his sentence, his neck was crushed by Kai Yang. His life snuffed out. Stormhouse's 5 people. The result? Total defeat. Calmly standing still, Kai Yang sensed the state of his boiling blood and his battle urge. His face cold, as he pondered, thinking of a very insane plan.